Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. Hojo, he got sick and he canceled, and I was gonna just sit at home and do nothing, but I got home and I a little bored, and I was looking forward to doing a live stream. So I'm gonna try to attempt to do something different. I'm going to I'm copying and posting right now. Let me see if this works. If this works, there you go. There you go. There's an invite. Anybody in the chat who is watching could click on that and join, and we'll just talk. So this is just an improvised. I don't know what to talk about live stream. I will say this: I got a haircut today. It's been the first time in like over a month. I got a haircut. I went to my barber shop. I've never been there on a Friday before. Since Hojo canceled, I didn't feel any pressure to get home, so I was like, I'm going to go to the barbershop. Now, the barbershop by me. It's all Dominican. They all speak Spanish, and I walk in. I'm the only white English speaking guy. And the first two times I went in, they were quiet. Everybody was like, checking me out. Now, whatever. We just laugh and joke, but it was great because I'd never been in on a Friday before. They all came in with beers and they're cutting hair. They started blasting music and they're doing shots. They gave me a couple of shots, and it was made my week. It was the best part of my week was getting a haircut. Now I totally understand why people hang out at barbershops. So I am filibustering for a minute or two. I hope I see this only 2 or 3 people watching, and Hojo called out sick. He's not feeling too good. So I put the invite into the chat. If anybody clicks on it and wants to come on, we'll do that. I've been on Ethan Van Skyver's stream. So Skinny says, if you're still on in 20 minutes, yeah, come on down, Skinny. The length of time that I'll stay on, it depends directly on if people are interested. I don't know what to talk about. I'm opening up mail. How's that for an exciting live chat? But Marcus is being the ever cool moderator, of course. So I got this. All in color for a dime. It's pretty much a history of comics. So I can't wait to read this. This, of course, is an old beat-up copy, but I had to get the hardcover. Edited by Dick Lupoff. I did not make up that name. It says it right there. And Don Thompson, who did the Comic Buyer's Guide. Was that what it called? The newspapers? That was really good. Oh, who wants a sneak peek at probably issue 7 of Heroic Tales? Anybody? Bueller? Here is a sketch of a Golden Age hero, the Sweet Scientist. He's a scientist and a boxer. He will probably make his debut in issue 7 of Heroic Tales. Sneak it up, Crom. Thank you, Crom. Crom is not only interested, he's also a member. So there you go. So you heard it here first. The Sweet Scientist will, if things go according to plan, he'll probably show up in a Golden Age tale in issue 7, depending upon everything else. So I see nobody's taking me up on it. Nobody wants to join in. Anybody? Marcus, you want to pop in? Levi Skeen, Haldir, Jolly Green. So what do you want to talk about? This Sunday, I might as well start blasting my commercials. This Sunday, I will do my Sunday comics, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to show Avengers #1. Let's see. We got this over here. Marcus is putting in my Substack. A bunch of people have been signing up for my Substack, so thank you, everybody. Next Thursday, I will be on with the Man Cave with Justin Belmont. They invited me today. What else we got to say? Skinny says if I'm still on in 20 minutes. Okay. Here you go. Here's proof positive. Click on that and you can join. Yeah, sorry, Hojo. Yeah, good guy. I enjoy talking to Hojo. I check out the Mythicals. His comic is good. I got issue #1. I enjoyed it. Marcus says that he's getting set up, and Crom says I would jump in, but I'm yammering at my buddy on Discord. Yeah, well, sometimes you got to yammer at a buddy. So what else we got here? Jolly Green, hail chat. Thank you, Jolly Green. I have a question for you, Jolly Green. Is the Jolly Green giant animal or vegetable? Is he animal or vegetable? The only reason why I asked that is Gail Simone just put up a tweet that says that could Poison Ivy control the Jolly Green Giant? I am of the opinion that the Jolly Green Giant is animal, not vegetable. So therefore, she could not control him. I don't know what else to talk about. I wasn't prepared. I was thinking of now I'm stammering. Isn't this the most entertaining you've ever seen on a Friday night? I'm looking around for fun stuff to show off. Future showcases. Here we go. I'll show comics. This is a stack of comics that I want to do showcase about. Marvel Team Up. What else we got here? Rebels. Anybody remember this comic? Am I the only fan of this comic? And remember, for the most part, I only showcase comics that I actually like. I got no time to be negative. I got no time for drama. Okay. I remind you, if I have guests on, it's because I want to talk about comic books. It's not because I'm picking sides. You know, I'll leave that ominous comment for you to decide what I mean. So I got some more. I forgot. I thought I was done with the Who's Who. So I got more Who's Who to show up. Wow, 5 people watching me filibuster. Again, the link is in the chat if anybody wants to join it. I think my strength is talking to people, not I don't like being on panels. I realize that if I have like more than 4 people, I kind of, that's like my weak point. You know, I kind of just start climbing up. This is a comic. I don't want to start talking about it now, but this is Bill Willingham doing the art and the writing. And then I think around issue 3, he stops drawing it. Promethea. Everybody seems to be dogpiling on Alan Moore right now. I'm a big fan of Alan Moore. Justice League of America 200. Look at this glorious George Perez artwork. Phase Phasers. Was it Phase 1 Phasers? Duh. This is AC Comics, Bill Black. I liked it. Of course, I wouldn't be. Another, I thought, a lost gem from DC Comics. They were experimenting with these comics. What was this 98? So I made 3 videos on this one, and I deleted every one because it's funny because I thought I remembered it well. I have to reread this. Yes, I want to do a showcase on this. See how quickly that gets demonetized. Wonderful comic about horror in the Roman Empire. Divine Right #1 and Ex Machina. And that's half the stack of comics that I would like to showcase. But we have a guest. Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce Nick Axe. How you doing?
Yo!
You know, just because you're drawing barbarian comics doesn't mean you have to dress like one.
I think it does. I think it's necessary, actually.
Okay. Oh, so you're a method artist.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm in character. I won't even get out of character for a full month after I'm finished the book.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. So you know what? I'm hiring Nick to do a swimsuit issue. So you will see him in a bikini for an entire time that it takes to draw the comic and a month afterwards.
And I won't even get into shape.
Round is a shape too, Nick.
It is true. Yes.
How's it going?
It's going well. How about you?
I'm good. I can't complain. At all. Every day, one step closer to building my campaign, and I wouldn't be able to do it without help from Nick over here. I was full on panic mode, and then Nick stepped in and
saved the day.
He walked me back from the cliff. So thank you.
Well, you know, it's a small service. You know, I take the cape off, I put the cape on. You know,
right? He puts the bikini on. You know, whatever it takes.
Exactly, whatever it takes.
So I saw some of your art. RJ's been posting some of your art.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it looks great. I mean, I'm always excited because RJ's a buddy of mine. Yeah. I'm excited because
mysterious.
Right.
Yes, very mysterious.
I think RJ's computer generated. I don't think he really exists.
This could be a very real possibility. Yeah.
He's too logical. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah. He's running a CPU. That's the only.
Yeah, we go to RJ's house. It's just like a cylinder with like bubbling waters and then green zeros and ones flashing around.
It's just a floating head in a vat of green liquid.
There we go. There we go. Yeah. That's why he won't. Either that or he's like a 6-year-old kid, you know. That's why
Right.
he put the filters
Could you
on.
imagine?
Yeah, but
No.
he got me interested in barbarian comics. I don't know how he did it, you know, but talking
Mm.
about it and he got me to, well, he didn't get me to, because I already bought Conan the Barbarian, the Marvel comics 1 to 5 like years ago, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And they just sat on my spinner rack, you know. And then I said, you know, what am I doing? And they were excellent. The first 2 I didn't particularly like, but then all of a sudden I guess they got their stride, and now I'm full on into barbarian comics again.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I have, I think, the full run of Savage, almost the full run of Barbarian, perhaps King. Like I've got a lot. Yeah, I've got a lot. Just in the back room. I went on a spree, I don't know, quite a few years ago, and I was just picking it all up. And at that time, this was just before COVID, so you know, I was picking them up for cheap. And then afterwards, it was amazing. It was amazing. I had bought all these books, and I bought them for cheap. There's this place in Ontario. I was living in Ontario at the time, called like the Comic Book Warehouse, and in Kitchener, Ontario. And I would love to go there, because the guy apparently had, I think he said he would go across the states. And think about this: he'd go across the states. He would have these. He would hear about these comic shops that were going out of business, and so he would go there with his weak Canadian dollar and would buy things up like 10 cents a book. And at that point, the comic shops didn't even care. They're just selling their entire inventory because they were just going out of business anyway. And he would go in and literally say, I will buy everything sight unseen. Then he would get a shipping container, and it would get shipped to the Comic Book Warehouse in Kitchener, Ontario, of all places, you know. And I think he said he has something like 4 or 5 shipping containers filled with comics. He
Wow.
believes he has over 1 million some odd comics, and he's got only a 3-man crew to basically handle all of the inventory. So I have no idea what the state or where exactly these shipping containers are shipped, like if or where they're sitting, if they're outside or what. But yeah, he was just talking about that, how many, like the inventory that he had. And we were talking about like things, this was years ago, probably about 3-4 years ago. We're talking about things going woke, and he's like, I'm happy that it's going to go woke, because that just means that all these back issues that I've bought are just going to go up in value,
Right.
because
Right.
people are just going to be hunting for this, and
Right.
that just means my business is going to do really, really well. He's like, I don't even buy unless someone orders the new books. He doesn't even buy anything from the catalog, from unless it's something special. He'll buy, like, you know, artist editions or hardcover editions and things like
Ultimate
that.
Spider-Man #1. Yeah, supposedly that's on like eBay already for like $100, which proves people still like Spider-Man. They still like Marvel. They just want good, normal.
You want good stuff?
Yeah, they want politically. Yeah, and again, yeah, comics were always political. And I always throw up a picture of Sue Storm saying, "We have to beat those dirty commies," you know, or
Yeah.
Nazi smash, commie smasher. You know.
I think you're pointing a finger. Yeah.
But I agree. But it's funny because I have a scanner, and I scan all my comics, and then my collection went up over like it was like 1.2 million, and then boom, it went down to like 700,000 right after the Marvel movies, and now I see it creeping back up again.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah,
people love comics.
Well, did you watch that Mark Miller interview with the 3 retailers?
Yes.
Yeah, and they were saying the same thing. It's like people are interested in the back issues now, right? Like they're just hunting and basically filling out, like, you know, runs that they had holes in and stuff. Yep. That makes complete sense to me. Yeah.
That's what I'm doing, you know, or finding out about stuff that like interested me back then when I was broke, you know, so I had to let it go.
Yeah.
Did you see in the community post I put my buddy Cam? He me and him, you know, we grew up in the same town, went to the same comic book store, and he's down in Florida right now. And I forget the name of it, the Mythic Comic Mountain or something like that. He says there's 2 giant locations, and they just sent him an email. Sorry, but we are no longer getting new issues. They are only getting manga and concentrating on back issues.
Right.
So he says to me, I guess I'm going back to a discount comic book service.
I don't know how, like, I don't know what a clearer message could be for these publishers.
Well, we got another special guest today, and when I say special, I mean special. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, special. Short bus special.
If you guys will talk for a second, my coffee just finished brewing, and I need a cup of coffee.
For sure.
Yeah. It's my Spider-Man
There it
shirt.
is. Yeah. How's it going, Marcus?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, except that I heard a buddy of mine said, "Hey, you need to jump into John's stream. He's the guest didn't show up." I'm like, "Oh shit! I just started frying up some delicious sausage and such." So I kind of killed that before I jumped in here, And then John decides, "Oh, I'm gonna take off and grab my coffee." I'm like, oh, that's
I was just the cats, as I put out, wanted to go out in a 25-degree weather. And for Charlotte, North Carolina, that is very cold.
Mm.
And I know they're going to want to come back in 3 seconds. So I was like all aggravated. I'm warning my wife, if you hear talking, this is what's happening.
What is sausage treachery? Do I even want to know?
I had pasta for dinner. So
sausage treachery. I was just talking about how rude of a host you were, because Crom was the one that actually told me that you're streaming and that your guest hadn't shown, and he said you should jump in right now, and I'm like, but I'm frying up sausage. And he's
that's a valid excuse.
So I killed the what I was cooking to come down here, and then you take off to get a coffee.
Did you not eat?
No, I have. I mean, I eat throughout the day, all day long.
Oh man,
so it's just terrible.
You know what? I sausage wins. I got no. What kind of sausage are you making? Today's
honey garlic.
What's that?
Nice.
Honey garlic.
Oh, that sounds good. I never
had
like a pork-based sausage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I've been looking for, and you think since I live in New York I could find it, but I can't. Anduin sausage. Am I saying it correctly? The Cajun.
I know what you're saying. You should be able to find that in New York.
I do find it every once in a while, but it's like that packaged. It goes to supermarkets.
Oh, the package. Maybe Trader Joe's if you're near one.
Oh, I didn't try Trader Joe's.
How much longer should three guys talk about sausage?
It's a sausage party.
Well, hey, wait a second, John. Do you have your copy of Ice On too? We could take that apart. That seems to be happening somewhere else on YouTube.
Oh, is it? Is that going?
Oh,
on
yes,
right
it is.
Is that
right now?
You should.
Oh, I'm enjoying the whole thing. I'm enjoying I'm enjoying the drama very much.
See, that's right. To be serious now, on a serious.
Oh, I'm 50. Well, I'm 58 years old, so I don't really care. I'm an adult. If they want to fight, that's fine. I don't affect. It's not going to affect Nick. It is not going to affect John. Because you're not really at the Ethan and the level of Ethan and Ripper. Ripper could use the knockdown.
See,
I've read a lot of comments.
Sir, how dare you suggest I am not at Ethan's level? How dare you?
Well, artistically, I'm not saying that. I mean, Ethan had a point today. So I watch it on. I drive. Like I drove to Raleigh, North Carolina. It's a 3-hour drive, and I was driving back today. And so I've been playing like the radio. It's great radio. I mean, in New York you have WFAN Sports, and this is kind of similar thing here. The arguing and all sorts of stuff going on.
My buddy Cam says the same thing. He's a pharmacist and he works overnight. And believe it or not a lot of people seem to go into the pharmacy overnights in his part of Florida. So he says like a 6-hour Ethan stream is perfect for him. So he knows all the gossip. He knows what's going on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I know what's going on. I don't always get it live. And there's no point to watch it live because there's so many people in the chat, you can't get in the chat. Like the greatest thing about the smaller chats and people, if they are listening, is that I can get to know John Bua. I can get to know Nick Axe. I got to be very good friends with Andy Smith and Dennis Turner. I mean, really good friends where they included me on some things and, give me a birthday gift for gosh sakes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and they're super. And I get to hang out with them. They expect me to show up at the local conventions to hang out.
Well, they're
so
great.
That's what they're really good. And like you go to Graham Nolan, just watch the one about his doing Monster Island, how he says hello to everybody because the most that they get is like 50 people, and they try to do it at Great Birds, get to be too much. But when it's the big chats, the Ethan and the ballers, there's way too many. There's way too many people. They're entertaining for sure.
I'll say something just to see how fast my name disappears. You know,
Really?
Oh yeah, no. Unless you super chat, I won't super chat anybody. So sorry, John. So my funds are limited.
Yeah.
I feel like
guys, I hate to say this, but since Crom is a paying member of my channel and he demands 4 hours of sausage talk,
that's what he demands.
We are in a customer service industry.
Ethan made an interesting point about David. He was EFAPing Ripa, talking to Az. I don't even know who Az is. And they're talking about being legitimized, and they're delegitimizing them. And he goes, the point, we're playing he's right, we're playing in the minor leagues. And no matter how bad Marvel and DC are, they are the major leagues. They don't care what happens here. They care about Ethan because he's a pain in the neck. And he used to work for them. They don't want to see him do, but the rest of us, and including Ripa, they don't care how much money he makes. They're not affecting Marvel and DC. Marvel and DC are bad on their own.
People buying from Eric July are not Marvel fans.
No, that's not a criticism of his
Marvel fans aren't Ripper fans, so you know what I mean. So they don't care. You're right.
And he's talking about all this stuff, and he's getting caught. And you're doing it the right way, Nick. You're giving John a lot of advice on how to do this. Ripper didn't get any advice on how to do this. It seems like he went to do it, and he's smart enough to come out with the book he did. It's a well packaged book. It's kind of mostly professional, but he tripped up, and then he doesn't want to hear about it, and that's to get better, and that's that, whatever, he's not really creator, he's not really drawing it, I've read many comics that I did not like the writing and did not care because the art was so good. I know that's not popular
that was called 90s
opinion, but I'm an artist. Well, I didn't think the art was so great at 90s Image either, so.
Yeah.
I just got it. You can super chat like a big boy. Take that, Ethan. Anybody else want to stick it to Ethan?
Only if you don't ever want him to show up on your stream again, John.
And listen, we think Ethan has done this with your boy Zach, and they created this Comicsgate, and they've given an opportunity for guys that we have not seen, Andy Smith, Graham Nolan, Aaron LaPresse. They would have nowhere to go or not know how to do the crowdfund. They all tried crowdfunds. They all got, just because they had a big name did not mean they sold anything. And they didn't, There's certain names that would sell. John Byrne would sell. He wouldn't have to get on YouTube. They would just say John Byrne. And as grouchy as he is online,
well,
people would buy it.
Marvel is going after him to get his fan fiction, and John Byrne won't sell it.
I heard that. Yeah.
I heard.
No, that's true.
John Byrne probably doesn't need to work.
No, he doesn't.
He has an agent. He sells his stuff. I would
not anymore.
He
used to make 6 figures in commissions alone.
Right? Yeah.
I'm involved with a John Byrne message board that's been gone since 2012.
John Byrne,
and they're all expatriates from John Byrne's message board, in which he is so grouchy, and he doesn't suffer any fools at all. He just banned and kicked everybody off. And they wanted to have it was an open board for a long time, and then he just,
I wonder if I'm still
it's just a grouchy guy, and they know a lot of it. Once they get on the forum, you get to know what they feel and stuff. And he would make, he made 6 figures. If Disney or Warner Brothers ever came down on him at one point, he would sell these beautiful giant commissions, and he would do the same thing, accused of just using markers and not SketchUp though. Of dashing them out, looking really quick. And some of them, the characters had 6 fingers, and some of the heads are too big and didn't look quite his style because he's just getting it out. But he had the itch to do that story. He did it anyway. It looked good to me. That board hates him, so they ripped it apart. But it looked good to me. You think these guys are picky? Those guys really get into him. But he could do a crowdfund. He could change all that, and it would do really well, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm not taking sides. Eric could do what he wants. Don't bother me. And plus, Eric has been on my channel back when I had like 400 subscribers, and Ethan was on my channel like when I had like 300 subscribers. So I'm not going to say anything bad about either one of them.
There's no need to.
And
no,
I don't like the drama. I mean, I like if I know I joined. I started doing this because I want to talk about comic books that I like. I don't want to talk about comic books that I don't like. So and I don't want to bash other guys. There's been guys on my channel, and I'm not going to mention names, whose comics I bought and I didn't particularly like, but I still like them, and I don't want to crush anybody.
That's why I have to hold back if I feel like I have to try to back. I can't back everybody. I'm not as big a backer. I'd love to back everything, but sometimes I'll start, especially when you talk to them, John. Oh, I got to back that book, and then I look at it. No, I can't. Oh, this guy was really nice. You really can't be using your money because the guy's really nice. They really have to be able to put out a comic. And sometimes for these people, it's the second or third comic. I'm not the world's greatest comic artist myself either, but I have published one. And it's hard to do.
To buy one of your comics, you don't
have to buy it. I'll give you one of my comics. I only gave them away. I only sold them for $1.
But but liking it will get me issue 2. I'm fully aware that most people that are going to buy my comic, there's 2 reasons to buy my comic. Renzo's artwork is phenomenal, and then 2, they like me, but I'm hoping they buy issue 2 because they like the comic,
that's why
if you like superheroes, you're going to like my comic. If the superheroes are your jam and you want good, clean, blue sky superheroes, you're going to love my comic. Some of the bad guys are going to be really bad. Some of the bad guys are going to be hokey. And then, I have a bad guy that I'm wondering if I should even put him in the comic because he's so bad, but that's what bad guys are. And of course, according to Modern Marvel, if I have a bad guy saying stuff, that's what I believe, right? Because we can't separate the fact that writers make up characters.
Yeah, I like in terms of the whole drama and everything else. I can take it or leave it. It doesn't matter to me. It really comes down to like knowing this space, and the first thing you got to know is like the internet, all of these screens, all these devices, all the chatter and everything is just all fake. Like there's what I mean by that is like you have to understand you're entering into a public sphere. And just like a politician, if you're going to enter into the public sphere, you have to understand the rules of engagement. And you have to understand that at any point you can be dragged into a fight, whether you want to be dragged into one or not, right? You might as well just look at this as the Colosseum, and you have to ask yourself, am I willing to step into the Colosseum? Am I willing to go? You can I think of like, what is it? Like Conan O'Brien, for instance, right? The most inoffensive guy. What does he do with all of his humor? A lot of comics out there will actually, cut down, let's say, like other people, right? So they'll do roasts, like comedian roasts and things like that. And there's someone in the butt end of their joke, but that's not what Conan O'Brien does. He points the joke at himself.
Yeah,
that's how he gets his humor, right? If there's a tyrant, he's the tyrant. If there's a clueless gamer, he's the one that's clueless. Like whatever his shtick is, it's always him at the center of it, and he's the first one to make fun of himself. And it's funny and it's entertaining, and we love him for it and everything else. That did not stop the fiasco that happened with Leno and the Tonight Show.
That's right. That's true. I remember that.
So as much as you may want to not partake, not be part of this, gladiatorial games, as it were, you can't avoid it. There's no avoiding it.
Being all reasonable and shit. What the hell? Come on.
Well, this is the thing, right? Like if you and this is again like with love, but if like Ripa's ego is attached to this world that we're talking through, and I think it's because he's a younger dude. I think it's because he's probably like a millennial or something like that.
He's like 32. He's like 32 years old, I think.
Funny that you said that. I was talking with Brian Bow of Wolf and Batsy today, and I was, saying I'm kind of disappointed with all the drama because I just want to talk about comic books. And he said, you notice that all the people that are engaging in drama, these are guys that are A, like 30 years, around 30 years or younger, or B, comic books is their full-time job. He goes, guys who are going to the construction site, or they're dentists, or they're truck drivers and stuff. He goes, they're not, and they're making comic books after. They're not doing all of this stuff because, I don't know, if I went to work with a drama like, Nick said this and whatever, then they would all look at me like, are you?
Well, here's the thing, is that if you had said, Nick Axe, is a big bedwetting duty head or whatever the insult.
You heard it here first. I'm putting it in the chat.
I don't know if this is just, but I wouldn't take offense. If let's say
we have confirmation.
And it is. Crom. If EVS started launching insults at me, not that there's any reason for it, or if anybody else
did, reason for it.
He did. Awesome, touche. If that was the case, I like, this isn't real,
right?
You don't like John. Happy for the work. I'm happy to do logos and art and whatever else, but I don't know you.
I thought we were friends.
Exactly. I don't know you. Right. How friendly can we get over the internet is questionable. I can't really know. I know what my friends are. I know who my friends are in the real world, and there is, surprisingly enough, a real world. It exists, and so I think that when you're younger, you think that this here is the real world, especially if you've built your ego, if you've branded your ego, because that's the like you got to look at some of the marketing nonsense that's being pushed out there. Brand yourself, brand yourself, brand yourself, brand yourself, brand yourself. Well, what does that do? That builds the ego.
Right.
Ego inflates the ego, inflates the ego, inflates. It's all about you and your ego, and your brand, or the brand is now your ego. And so that's why like you have someone like EVS who's a Gen Xer and can separate this nonsense and look at these YouTubers and call them zeros. Of course they're zeros.
So right. That's what I'm thinking as well.
Of course they're zeros, because this whole thing is a zero. If you're going to fool yourself and throwing yourself into this game and think that this game is at all real, this idea that you're attacking this person or that person, I see no scars, no one's bleeding out, there are no deaths. There are no trumpets for anyone who's passed away, died, or whatever else. There's no statues being erected in any place for any of the warriors or the victors or anything like that. None of that stuff's happening. What's that?
I said you weren't there for the great meme wars.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Like, so what does that tell you? That tells you that all of this is fake. So if John launches something at me, like I am a bit surprised now. Only a little bit, that EVS felt so betrayed, and the rest of them felt so betrayed.
A little bit,
right? Like I was like, that's interesting to me, because I don't know if I would feel that way. I might, like, I can't say for certain, but I don't know if I would, because as much as I think I might know a person, like I don't. Like, see, this isn't really the way to get to know people.
I don't know what it is. I wear my emotions on my sleeve. Same. When I'm mad, I blew up twice over the internet. One was entirely my fault. One was entirely somebody else. Both times, backroom, we figured it out. We solved it. But if I was to turn on a whatever stream tomorrow and Marcus is on it talking crap about me, I'll get my feelings hurt. You know what I mean? I'm like. Because I'm not even joking. Anybody who's been on my channel, after an hour conversation, I'm like, I like that guy. I like that girl. You know what I mean?
Except for Fabian.
Nick Axe isn't real.
If they invited me.
Except for Fabian.
But,
Yeah, Fabian. What did you say? You have mental health issue. What did he say?
I was watching. Fabian was a little serious.
I take it back.
Serious old man.
There's one.
Well, he's older than I am.
But Nick Axe doesn't exist.
Oh, you invoke Crom and he shows up.
He definitely doesn't exist.
I do not exist.
I'll tell you right now, he does not exist.
Well, first off, I'd like to say this is the beard panel tonight.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
If anybody likes to join else, the fifth person, you better have a beard. That's all
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah. Or boobs. That
Well,
works
first,
too.
let me say, beard on your
Send
boob.
Kelsey the link.
Oh, Kelsey, oh my God. It was funny because people were saying, like, what was that, your twin brother?
Oh,
You
I
know, and if
I
people,
think that
oh, first off, I just want to say hello, Crom. I've never met you before.
Hello.
Thank you so much.
Glad to
for-
be here. Glad that
channel.
I could just roll into your stream.
Oh yeah. I put out the invite for everybody. So I just want to say thank you personally. Now there's a face behind the name. You're one of 3 members of my channel, and I don't know what to offer you. I don't know other than to say thanks, and I will try my best to get you an autographed copy of my comic by myself and Renzo.
We all rise. That's
The last time I sent
that's
Renzo
the way it
anything in
goes.
the mail, it didn't show up because he lives in Mexico.
I've had that on
does
like
he?
about 2 of
I
the
sent
8
him a box of
campaigns
comics,
that I backed in the last 2 years, where it's like, nope, and that never showed up.
Never shut up.
Yeah.
Canada.
I'll forge your Renzo signature on it, and then I'll put my name on it.
Just show me yours. I'll just trace it.
There you go. There you go. Do what I did with my father. I forged his signature on a failing math test, and you know what he did? He
Smooth.
smashed my Dragoon Shogun Warrior figure.
Oh.
He said, "Is this your favorite?"
Oh,
Like he
That's
just walked in. He's like, "Hey John, how you
I
doing?"
used to be.
He goes, "What's your
That was
favorite?"
the talent I had.
This is my favorite toy. He put it on the ground, smashed it, and then threw the paper down. Not only did I never
Now
What-
count the
forge the signature
pieces.
again, I never.
Forgery signatures was a talent I had. I used to be able to do that. I don't know if I still can.
So there you go. You know, all you millennials that say like spanking and it's child abuse, I would have taken a spanking 100 times.
Yeah,
than have
for
my
sure.
Dragoon smashed. I bought
For
that
sure.
for myself. $11. I saved up on lunch money to buy that. But anyway, I
You went
didn't even read it.
hungry.
Is this Crom of Destructive Fate? Yes. Look at him. He's pure destruction. Look at this guy.
Do what I can.
Crom
You
the
know?
Destroyer. That's true.
Unfortunately, no. that isn't me. I'm a different Crom, different era. It's
Crom,
funny.
are you making any books or anything?
I'm actually, so my background, I'm a copy editor, so I do a lot of like for Axe, I do a lot of like copy editing, story work, like story editing work.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're one of these imaginary friends that he has in real life.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
totally.
Wait a second. I thought this guy was the model for Nick's comic book.
Yeah, look at him.
His name is Crom, after
He
all,
just paid
right?
me money to come in and say all of this and legitimize
Yeah, he
him.
just flexes out, and then you take pictures.
You pull back.
He
He's
just-
He's
really
like a living 3D SketchUp or something.
Jim that way. Yeah, I'm a writer, but I like a lot of the work I've done with Axe has been like story work and what have you, and a bit of marketing work as well. And that's where like Cooper and we started talking with him about marketing, branding, because
Yeah.
while those are like terrifying words slightly at this level, like Axe was bringing out that whole thing of like branding and ego, and I agree with you 100%, Axe. This is where like somebody needs to step in and start having conversations about how to do this, so that it's like, here's how you brand, and it's over here, not inside your soul, and not like you're pouring yourself into it. Like I get Ethan, for instance, freaking out about making a comic is a personal thing. Totally. It makes sense, right? This is his passion. This is what he's wanted to do with his life. It's what he has done with his life.
There's few
Right?
people that are born to do a comic. Ethan was, if your deity of choice touched that guy on the forehead and said, draw.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's
But there's
almost
also that
his
like
ability to draw. There's
you
no
might,
dispute
you
about
might be
that.
pouring yourself into it. That's not a reason to light yourself on fire at the same time. Right. And that I think is what's happening in a lot of ways right now, is people are
Self-immolation.
just like, you don't like what I did. That's you telling me you don't like me.
You know what? I said
I don't like what you did, Crom, and I also don't like you.
well, there you go.
Yeah.
That you can't take
Says
personally.
this man with this hat.
Yeah.
Fart.
I just this is a
Well,
hat joke with me.
If you watch enough of the Ethan things, he's making enough money. He's making enough money in super chats with this chat cat. I mean, he always got a good amount of super chats, but this trash cast that he's going to buy Philadelphia Philly season tickets, which are thousands and thousands of dollars, and he won't even be able to use them now. And so every time he says something, and Eric July kind of obfuscates, lies, whether it's a lie or not, or doesn't say right now, he's going to do another trash cast. Now, what Ethan does, will use the names, and Eric won't. Eric will act like I'm not, I'm above the names. But Ethan at this point is not really a YouTuber. Like Eric July, that's his job. He's a YouTuber. That's what he's been doing since he's 16 years old. And Ethan had said 9% of the followers will buy the book because 9% of his followers buy the book. And that math is almost exactly right. And that's why any of these YouTubers that make a comic book are going to be doing $1 million books because they won't be comic fans like we are, but they'll do it because that's the YouTuber. They could sell hats. They sell hats. They sell shirts. It could be anything. It could be a bobblehead, but it has to be a comic book. Right. Yeah. Unfortunately for John, he only has 25 followers, but so every time he does it, he says, I can make more money. Well, he goes, I'm grifting. At least he's admitting to all his grifting. It's not, he could stop tomorrow. Now, is it keeping him from doing his book? He says he draws all day. When he gets tired or mentally can't draw anymore, then he'll fire up a stream. I can't understand it. But I work 40 or 50 hours. So like John, I work all the time. I find, it's 10 o'clock at night. I can sit down and do a panel. That's how it works for me,
Man, today was excruciating. This was like the slowest ice I've ever seen. It was like steel. I started to appreciate Iceman. Like, we just had ice over everything. And I'm the logistics guy at work. I got to get all the material and I got to get it out. So, I'm the oldest guy in the job. So they always give that guy the logistics job. They call it the locker pup. So I don't know how I went from the youngest guy in the job to the oldest guy in the job in a blink like that, but that's what it is. So I'm taking all the stuff off the truck and things are frozen together. And I got to just rubber hammer. I was like, I worked harder today. This is supposed to be the easy job for the old timer. The ice was outstanding. And then, so I don't want to come home and turn on the YouTube and fight with Nick. Hey, Nick, you suck. Your comic sucks.
No, I don't know. But if you were pulling in $1,500 of super chat,
yes,
you might do it.
Well, then
you might feel, I'm going to do this.
Stuff, right?
For $2,
for $2, you're done. Well, you're done.
I mean,
tomorrow. What are you talking about?
I finished sketching out that page for you, John, in the hotel room because if it really can, and I have to stay overnight for my job. I drive so far. Like 4 hours, and then I fix some internet thing. I fix internet for 10 minutes, and then I don't drive back. It was 4 hours plus. I usually stay over.
Did they pay your hotel room, your job?
Yes, yes. Yeah, travel, hotel. You're right. And I work for the company. I'm not a contractor. But if I'm really busy, I will bring it to the hotel room and work on it, even though, because you were waiting for that stuff.
Marcus is one of my stretch goals. If my comic makes an amount of money that I haven't decided yet, I got to figure.
Well, only if I do a good job. So far, it's okay.
So far, it's okay. I
got to fix that face at the bottom.
That's a 7-page script. Unheroic Tales. He's going to write about the.
It was supposed to be 8 pages, but John had trouble counting that high.
Well, I wanted to do an 8-page. But I couldn't figure out another page, and I figured just one page of fluff in a 7-page story would have changed the pacing. You know what I mean? So I figured, all right, seven pages, maybe whatever.
It's fine.
Yeah. Plus, he was just like, less pages, my hand hurts.
Oh, it's true.
This is actually this is a bit of what Axe and I have been talking about, and what we were talking with Cooper about figuring out was taking some of the mass marketing tools that have been an advantage to large companies and disassembling them a bit and reinterpreting them down to this level for you guys. So it's like, how do you, if you've got to be on YouTube, and it is a very powerful tool right now, if you've got to be on it, it's like, how do you make the bang for your buck so that if you're really only able to do it like on a Friday night, what are you doing? And how does it get you the most you can possibly get out of that single stream?
I was thinking of feet picks. What do you guys think?
Yeah. I mean, you nailed it. We're done, right?
Yeah. Narrow cast right to the feet. Yeah.
Oh, well, in that case, I'll have to draw that woman that I drew on that first page with even bigger boobs than I already gave her. Yeah. They were pretty big. So
all boobs up. Let's just
marketing 101. Boobs.
Wait here. Yeah.
And for those of you who like pictures of beautiful women, Nick, man, what you were drawing for Crom the Destroyer for RJ's comic is outstanding.
Oh, thank you,
He
sir.
posted some of your sketches today, and I was like, bravo, that was excellent.
I'll have to look at that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'll at you.
He finally put some stuff up. That's good.
Yeah.
RJ, post more stuff.
Well, he's been posting like quite a bit. But yeah, like
RJ, it's hard to post when you're fighting Bigfoot and the Yetis up there in the frozen
true.
tundra.
Listen,
Yeah.
it's plenty frozen where I am. All right.
Where do you live?
I live in Calgary.
Oh, okay. That's
Which
where
is
John
like-
Byrne is from, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever see him
It is.
screaming at anybody in a restaurant?
Unfortunately, no, but it's probably because I'm busy screaming at people myself.
He lives in Westport, Connecticut.
He's no longer in
drinking
Calgary.
Tim Hortons
He
coffee.
made
He's been in Calgary a
You made
long
the
time.
wise decision to not be there anymore. Yeah.
My wife.
Well, that was years ago.
And we were driving to Providence because I'm a Lovecraft freak. So we were driving when we first got married. We used to take road trips. You know, when you first get married, you take road trips. When you've been married for 20 years, you grunt at each other from across the room. You know, so we were driving to Providence and we saw a Tim Hortons for the first time. And I never heard of a Tim Hortons. You know, there was one in Connecticut. And she started crying. Oh, so of course I had to pull over. We go, what is this Tim Hortons? And I got a cup of coffee. I'm like, this is the best coffee I've ever had. So nothing but Tim Hortons in this house, except Cafe Bustelo when I'm feeling down, like on a Sunday when I wake up.
That's because that's what the Italians call those black coffee.
Yeah.
And then Tim Hortons coffee is called brown coffee.
Yeah.
And now it's
That's how
called
strong it is. That's
shit
espresso.
I wanted to say, Crom, you were saying something earlier before about ego and getting your feelings hurt. I sent out my stuff to people. And of course, you know, people and I said, give me your honest criticism. You know, I want to make a professional comic. I don't hold back because, you know, whatever. And some of the comments I got, I was like, oh, you take it personal. But
Yeah.
I asked for it, and you know, so I'm also bracing myself. I'm not naive enough to think I'm going to put out a comic book, and then Ethan Van Sciver's going to be like, "This is the greatest thing," and Eric July, "This is perfect." Oh my God, John, come on, you know what I mean? So I know that there's going to be people like I wasted money on this, and I'm going to try to practice Stan Lee. Oh, I'm sorry you didn't like it. You know, next issue is going to be great. You know, or whatever. You know, because that's what we should be doing rather than like,
you know what?
Locking them and get rid of them.
That's great. That is a good idea. Like to have that kind of like, hey, we're here to. You are here at a particular level, as is anyone, right? Anybody,
Right.
Which means you're going to come out and you're going to do work, and it's some of the times it's going to land, sometimes it's not. That's the way she goes. The part that kills me about almost everybody in CG, and I can't actually think of anybody that didn't do this, or should have done it. I'm not sure how to put this. Nobody has follow through. I haven't seen it.
What do you mean?
Follow through is in. So okay, you buy a Dyson vacuum and you register it. They contact you on a regular basis about how your vacuum's working. Like, is everything all right? Are you doing okay?
With my whatever it is, Roomba.
Yeah. Right. What are they doing? They're maintaining their customer service through line after you got your product.
Right.
And almost anybody, I see the same cycle happen where they'll get their campaign together, a lot of push, you know, like they got those 30 or 60 days and they're on the warpath. They're banging the drum. They're everywhere they can get. They're getting on Ethan's channel. They're getting on Bancroft. They're getting on anybody they can get on and talk about their book.
Yeah.
And they managed to get their campaign done. And it's like, huzzah, right? Everything's Jim Dandy. And then nothing. And I can't remember the campaign where Axe and I were talking about this because I was looking at my Indiegogo backing, right? And I'm like, what have I backed? And I don't remember. That's how long it's been. And I don't even remember what it was. I think it might have been Grom, that one, because that one sticks in my head. And there had been some updates on the actual campaign, but I didn't receive an email or anything. Like I had to go looking for information about this thing that I thought was interesting and that I had backed. There was no...
You mean before you got it?
Before I got it.
Okay.
And more importantly, after I get it. That's the game that's really being effed up right now. Yeah. Right? That's the real follow through. Because if you expect people to come back for number 2, what are you doing between when they bought 1 and when you're going to launch 2 that has kept any kind of dialogue going between you and those customers? Right? Even if it's just like, hey, here's some updates on number 2, or hey, here's some follow up on what happened with number 1, some extra art and what have you. When we were on with it wasn't when we were on with Cooper. I was watching John, you and the 3 of you and somebody else talking about
Cooper.
It was Cooper, yeah. Talking about digital editions, like the sort of value.
I was just going to jump in,
yeah. What was the value of digital? And I'm like, there's actually this like hidden value of digital. It's now a tool that you could give to anybody to continue the conversation about like, here's what this was, here's where it's going. Number 2 is slated for whatever date. But the conversation continues, and the people aren't just left with nothing. And then all of a sudden you're back in their inbox.
Digital, I don't even want to offer it.
Well, and that's
I'm not saying you have to. That's just a tool.
We're talking about exactly. Like you can have your business model the way you want. Zach doesn't want to have anything to do with digital either. But what Crom's talking about is like at the end of the thing, where's your survey? Where's your interview? Where's your like checking in with your customer? Are they happy? Do you notice how a lot of these guys jump into issue 2, but they don't even know yet how the first issue was even received. Okay,
like,
so
I know Zach was asking people. He had that like prayer or whatever it was. Like, are you sad? Are you disappointed?
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's usually like 3 faces.
I forget what the.
I don't know.
Pretty admirable that he's like any reason, whatever.
The emails I've gotten after I've gotten the book, Graham Nolan sends out emails. He's not finished. He hasn't. His book, nobody wants to talk about it because they all love Graham. He's actually late now. However, nobody cares because he kept everybody abreast of why. Because he did 2 books in between, and he had surgery. Like, he did not admit that he had medical issues. Like, R.T. Bear is really late. Why? Well, I've heard that he has major back problems, but he doesn't tell any of his backers that. And everybody likes art, but they're starting to grumble. Who's the other? Dan Fraga. Dan Fraga had major life things going on during this whole thing, and he's slow, but he doesn't tell anybody.
See, I
he kind of hems and haws when he's on YouTube, but they're not sending. And so they get angrier. And even Ethan, when he was really like, now he's talking about it because this is what he should have done 6 months ago. And I get emails, believe it or not, from Gabe Al-Taib about his new comic with Dean King, which I'm not going to back because I'm not backing anything with $35 because it was plus ship because it's really expensive. And I don't know the artist. And Gabe, Gabe.
Gabe will be on in a couple of weeks. He's coming on my channel.
You won't even have, when he's on, you'll be just say one word and he'll go. You just be quiet and drink your coffee because Gabe will he'll go on. He'll filibuster the whole thing. It's really, but I liked him for a long time until his thing with. Now we don't know about that because they didn't take it to the internet. His business problem with David Williams.
It's good it's good that like people who are late are actually communicating, but and they should, and there's strategy for that kind of issue, that when that arises there's strategy for that as well. But what we're really talking about is that everything is being delivered. You have your pipeline. You're going through this
right.
And we're talking about the places where that pipeline might be missing. And at the back end, after the campaign is finished and people ideally have read the book, what's your strategy for getting any kind of feedback so that you can know whether or not you did a good job, and if you have to make some changes, some alterations, some considerations for issue 2. You're just jumping into issue 2 assuming that you're this incredible comics creator, the gift to the world, of which my book is going to, they're going to love it no matter what I do. And it's like, no, you really got to check in with your readers, and you have to figure out what your strategy is for checking in.
Because I'm already thinking about that, Nick, because my comic is called Heroic Tales. My comic is not called The Patriarch. And issue number 2 was originally going to be the first issue, and that character is Mary Sue, and it's about another whole character. And I really love this character and I can't wait to tell the story, but it's kind of a dense character. And I'm like, this isn't really a good jumping on point. So I pulled issue 3 and made it an issue 1, the Patriot. And now I'm like, what if people are going to get mad at me that issue number 2 is not the Patriarch again? Like I want to know if people are going to be upset before I sink money into another issue that people are going to be pissed off at. You know what I mean? Should I, you know what I mean? So this is something I'm already anticipating. Like I want to, as things are shipping out, I want to talk to people, send out emails, make videos, talk to me, give me feedback. You know,
here goes the digital argument then, because what we're talking about is you know on the back end after the thing's shipped and you're checking in with your customers. But let's not talk about the digital, the thing that you don't like at all, right?
Right.
I spit at thee. You know that.
Get off my lawn, kids.
Totally. You know, maybe you need to rethink that. And I say that because, you know, if you really want to be in tune with the work that you're producing and whether or not it's speaking to your readership, you have to, you're going to want some feedback. Now, there are a couple of ways of doing this. You can have a street team. Okay. So that street team might be 10 people, might be 15 people, might be whatever. I mean, the size of your audience is, whatever. But that street team, what you do is these are people who back, and you've got a secret link or something to that effect where they can go and they can check out your story, and you can ask them questions, and you can continually ask them questions, and you give them perks for being on the street team. And part of being on the street team is that they also help to promote. So the idea there is you want to be part of the street team. You can get extra stuff. With that extra stuff, you're also expected to perform in certain ways, and that would be to do a bunch of retweets or whatever. So anytime that you're posting something, now all of a sudden you're getting a signal boost because there's like 6 other people in your street team that actually retweet whatever it is that you tweeted, and so on. Hopefully your artists are retweeting some of the stuff that you're doing as well, in engaging in that stuff also. But getting back to the point, the idea is that your readership, you don't have a readership yet. So you have to figure out whether or not the work that you're producing is actually has value. You want to know that that plot turn that you're writing actually is turning, and that it has the effect that you're going for. Crom beats this into my head all the time when it comes to story and story editing and everything else. Is does it play? Did it turn? What is it you're trying to achieve? But ultimately, Crom continues to be
overtime at work.
Crom but the one thing that Crom is always to me about is the idea of effect. Is the effect that you are trying to generate in the reader actually happening? There's so many young writers, so many newbie writers, that they think that they're putting this stuff down on the page, and they think that it's there. They think that whatever it is that they're trying to achieve, that effect might be, any given scene has a particular effect, and every scene has an effect, an emotion, usually an emotional effect. And from each scene to scene to scene, you're building that effect to the effect until you get to the climax. Obviously, is the effect working? So many times, especially if you're writing a mystery or these sort of things, the clues, the elements that you're putting in there to generate or to garner that effect in the reader, it's not necessarily there. It's in there in your head, and you write it in the script, and you think it's on paper, and the artist is sitting there drawing, and he thinks it's there, but it isn't actually there. So what you do is you have that street team, 20, 30 people. You invite them into this circle of trust. They get the pages as they're coming out. They get to read the book in advance. Obviously, they're not supposed to reveal anything. Spill the beans, right? That's part of the agreement. That's part of the trust. And what you're doing is you're getting this feedback from your readership so that you know that you need to switch some dialogue, change a panel, add an insert panel, add a whole new page, cut this entire page, redo this page, which is really painful. But if you know that it has to be redone and you've got to pay for it out of pocket because it's actually going to make a better story, how the hell are you going to know that after the fact? So this idea of digital, it doesn't necessarily have to be in the ways that we're talking about, PDFs or whatever else. It could just simply be for a street team so that you can get that feedback. You can know that your story is playing, and you can get a better idea of what you're going to need to do for that issue 2. Does any of that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
There is I had a whole other reason in mind. So Axe making a very good point.
Every time I have a guest on, I have like a little ulterior motive, is I want to learn something about what I'm doing. You know, when I first started doing this, it was pie in the sky. I'm just going to hire Renzo and we're going to bang out the greatest comic book in the world. And then Pete Sametti says to me, well, you know, who are you going to do your what did he call it?
Pre-press.
And I'm like, what the hell is pre-press? I you know what I mean? It was a step I didn't even know. And
well, John, you're masterminding this even further. You're not just getting advice, but from the guy who's giving it, Crom, he's also paying you $2 in super chats.
Right? Yeah, I mean, really.
Yeah, he's paying you to give advice.
You're a millionaire in no time, really.
I was super chat, or you're getting off the screen.
I see.
I just realized this is Canadian money. What is that like?
This is like a payphone. I have to just keep putting in quarters to keep talking.
Well, if it's Canadian money, that means Trudeau can come and monitor your internet.
The stripper booth in Times Square when I don't know anything about that, please.
No. I mean, who would? I mean, that sounds like
me. I bet it's Times Square.
Fake story. No, the other idea that I've had here.
Continue talking.
Is and this is a problem I think for the independent world in general, whether it's a comic or anything really. This is a struggle. But one of the issues I've seen with like Bancroft, for instance, because I think I just got the #2 out of his Lucent Dream Death Time polka dot thing, whatever it's called, and I can't even remember how long it was between 1 and 2, and I'm sitting here wondering. I never bought one. I didn't buy one. Was it about a year? Yeah, that makes sense. That seems to be about the turnaround. But I get 2, and I'm like, man, I back that out of like a sense of loyalty. I'm totally off the rails. I don't know what's going on. I don't even know what's going to happen when I open this book. Actually, the same thing was when I backed She, because I didn't back for the omnibus. I just got the latest version that he was putting out when I got She, and I read it, and I'm like, oh, I'm missing a bunch of information that would be very helpful to understand what's going on. So the one argument I would make, and it's not as though a digital version has to be what you use to solve this problem. It is just a problem to think about and go, how do you solve it? But no one in CG has enough books after the campaign is done to keep selling. They don't print more of them.
Oh,
except for Ethan.
100% right.
Well, yeah. I mean,
I'm an obsessive comic.
No, that's true.
He's a whole other thing, Ethan.
if I back a comic, I'm not starting at issue 3. I want 1 and 2.
Right, and then if you can't get,
of guys told me that they didn't have 1 and 2, and I'm like, well, I'm not back at 3. I'm sorry, you know.
So now there's a gap, right, where you're like, oh, I'm not only are you missing out on an opportunity over that year to be continuously selling the book, new customers coming in, to speak in a more mercantile fashion, new customers, people who are now maybe didn't hit the campaign, but they're new customers. They're ready to get in and get #2 because they've read #1 in some way. Now, you could keep doing a physical book, but it would mean printing and holding inventory, which is trouble.
That's what Aaron Lopresti did.
Yeah. And I think I remember him even, I think one of the streams he was talking about that it was getting on top of him because he was trying to manage orders and what he was doing in the now and all this. That's a whole other ball of wax, right? That's why people tend to pay 3PLs to like hold inventory for them and do drop shipping so that they can just be like, yeah, you did the transaction on my website, but beyond that, I'm not part of the logistics, right? Because it's such a hard thing to keep track of. So that's the one argument about a digital is there's still a product available for someone to buy at any time for them to get into the stream and the flow of your story and be ready for #2 and be part of the conversation without having to like jump between one campaign and another campaign that are sometimes a year apart. And how many customers, how many potential readers have you lost because
one of the things
the chain broke?
Is each issue is going to be a self-contained story. You know, so if you whatever you've never heard of me and you're picking up issue #2, you're going to get a self-contained story. Even if you missed issue #1, it's not going to affect. Now, it's I'm doing the Marvel thing where it's all set in the same world. So maybe you're going to miss an Easter egg or two. And I will have it tied together somewhere around issue 7 or 8 where the payoff for having every issue comes in. But, I'm well aware of what if I make one issue and it doesn't go well or I underestimate what I could do and whatever. So I don't want my customers to be disappointed. Oh man, this was good, but it's a cliffhanger. And I don't know if anybody's ever read Miracle Man 25 never came out. It's the longest running cliffhanger in comic book history. I want to know what the freak happened. I don't want to do that to anybody. Oh, and real Crom, you've been trying to say something.
No, I've been promoting Crom for so long.
Is this Pops?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I've been promoting Crom, that little green troll, for
Okay.
4 years now. Okay. When I see somebody running the name, I'm like, wait a minute, I gotta meet this dude. I got to meet this guy.
Well, unfortunately, they started calling me that in 1995. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
See, now what happened is that was drawn into the logo of our Facebook group. Okay, that little green troll, and he took on a name. He took on a character of his own. There's probably been 100 different people that have drawn him. I mean, I have this huge file of Crom art. When I see somebody rolling the name, I got to come out and say, what up? Because
my friend Joe, when we were kids, we used to play Dungeons and Dragons, and I don't know where Joe went. How friends just disperse, but he had a character named Crom, and Crom was he was just unpredictable. And at the end of every adventure, he would kill another player.
this guy's an internet troll.
And it got to the point where we were like, are you gonna kill me? Yeah, I was killed by Crom. It became like a badge of honor.
See, this one is an internet troll, and if you know anything about our group, we run a Friday D&D game. Okay, our last session ended today, Tomb of Annihilation. Okay, that ended today, and we're starting our next one, and we all are using our own characters, our own indie characters in the Marvel format. Right, the Marvel D&D format, the old Marvel superheroes game. Okay. So my little internet troll Crom is going to be in the game coming up. So I want y'all to check it out. Now I'm going to get out the way and let you do the thing. Like I said, I just wanted to meet dude, man. Anybody rolling this game, right on, bro.
Everybody knows Pops, and if anybody turns on a camera long enough, Pops does show up. So just be warned.
It happens, man. It does happen. You all have a great night, man. I'll check you out.
Pops. Thanks for showing up.
Good.
Yeah, it's always good to see Pops.
John, you were saying how you don't want to have that interesting thing that Andy Smith told me we were going into the convention. He goes, did you notice this? That all the older creators, now he's the king, so older creators like him and Graham and Aaron, older, they're all, except for, all the older creators all do one and dones with a little, there's a Easter eggs that go on to you read Cordrat, that you can read that one Cordrat that never went, and that ended that story.
The saddest complete story.
And you never right. And then Graham really does it. Aaron does it, even though uses the same characters.
Right.
Billy, I've never backed. I'm not a big she guy. I love Billy, and my characters create the same in some way. Like my woman characters, influenced. I actually have a woman character because of she and stuff. So I wouldn't really know. But all the other ones, the older creators, but even the younger creators, and the younger creators being the age, Shane's in his 40s, and Nika's going to see 50. All those millennial guys, all have major cliffhangers at year-long wait. Well, even if they're on time, year-long waits.
Right.
They're all introductory stories. They're all completely you read Inglorious Rex 1. That's an introductory story. And he introduced us to everybody, and they had a nice fight, but the big one's really next issue.
Right.
Whereas the older creators will make the big one this issue and the big one next issue.
Did you read this?
I wasn't that nuts about Inglorious Rex. It was okay. I mean, I'm back to, my comic reading is right around Shane Davis. I don't know those guys. 2005. I know Ethan. Because I was into the Green Lantern Rebirth, but I really didn't get Flash Rebirth. I was kind of out, not even paying that much attention. So like the Shanes, John Malin. I don't know who the heck John Malin is. He could be anybody, you know.
I found out about John.
And I know he's was a top Marvel guy, but so those guys, it's all cliffhangers and stuff. And you know, I wasn't crazy for Gloria, so I thought that he could use a little Jack Kirby.
Do a cliffhanger, it would only be after I got a well-oiled machine going, and I know how long it could do between issues.
Because like Andy and Dennis do not. They said to me they do not want to do a cliffhanger because they know it took Andy to get that book to people's hands. It was almost exactly a year.
Yeah, that's
And he could have done it slightly earlier, but not that much earlier. Because they do have lives, and he has to take some commercial artwork. You know, they're paying themselves through this, and I think that's part of the complaint. Is, and here comes the cat.
Oh. Now, tell us it's a cat. Tell us it's an actual lion. The force perspective made us.
Yeah, the force perspective. Hey, say hi, Butterscotch.
It's funny.
Butterscotch. We didn't name it. It came with that name. It's a rescue cat.
Just call me insane. Good. Yeah. For those of you who Kitty, I know the female audience will go nuts.
Well, I know you like cats, John. That wasn't a big deal.
I'm a cat person myself.
I might add a cat to that first page.
I had a scheduled guest tonight, and they had a illness, sudden illness, and they got kids sick and stuff. So you know, I did an improvised stream. So Crom, I gotta ask you, why are you called? Why did your friends name you Crom?
It's a pretty long and incredibly nerdy story.
Look who you talking to.
It started, the very, very beginning of it was that back in the bulletin board days, the dial-up bulletin board days, that was the name I picked because I love Robert E. Howard, right? So I was like, just pick.
I just got all the books.
And oh wow, yeah, it's hiding behind me right now.
I just got the collection.
But then a couple of weird incidents took place that resulted in like a huge swath of people knowing who I was, but they only knew the name Crom. And then from there, it just kind of stuck. When I first started writing, I was writing for a satire. Well, I was doing satire for a magazine. It wasn't really a satire magazine. And I just wrote under Crom, and then that like it just propagated from there. And then I ended up getting jobs where people knew me as Crom. And like now, if you ever like find me on the internet, usually you'll see like my legal name and Crom in the middle of it because you could call somebody for a reference and they're like, we don't know who you're talking about. And you're like, oh, Crom. You're like, oh yeah. Right. So it's just time slowly has propagated the name. So I used to actually have just the Crom Twitter handle. And then at one point I'm like, I'm leaving Twitter. This cesspool is no longer to my interest. And when I came back, I couldn't get it. They're like, no, you can't have a name that short. I was like, son of a bitch. Like, so
well, my Twitter handle, John's Longbox at John's Longbox, yahoo.com. And it was perfect because, when you retweeted me or added me, it said John's Long. And then I stupidly got it's my own fault. I got into a political argument with like people protesting in the streets. And I just said, well, if you're stopping me from where I need to get going, that's the definition of kidnapping, and you could use lethal force. And boom, I haven't petitioned the new Twitter to see if I can get my name back, but I don't know. Now I got like so many followers. I don't know if it's worth getting, but I think for brand, it's better to have John's Longbox at John's Longbox, yahoo.com, as your Twitter. But
that's great.
Yeah, so I owe it. I did it to myself.
And that end, I do think a car can go through a blockage in Minecraft.
In Minecraft, yeah.
In Minecraft, I'm not getting you off. I'm not getting you kicked off of YouTube.
One thing, John, that I was thinking about there when you were talking, might be worth considering doing, if not anything digital, at the very least a one shot. And the reason I say that is like even if it was just 8 pages or something like that. To provide the through line from 1 to 2 if you are switching characters, right? Doing something that essentially, like, I think Marvel does that where it's like people exist in this world, but they have that gossamer through line that's like, oh, this is all happening in this place. That is the larger connective tissue of why these stories are happening in the line that they're happening, right? There's a connection of some sort.
I'm getting good ideas. A lot of good ideas. I got lots of ideas. Nick was saying he could set me up with like a website for like John's Long Box Comics, where you know what I mean. But that's all if my comic's successful. If my comic's successful, I got a mythological story I want to tell. I got a Western story I want to tell. Probably have.
You got to find somebody who draws horses.
Yeah, I know. Nobody. Everybody I asked, they all said the same thing. It's a Western. I don't want to draw a horse. I said, well, it's the same horse. You just got to draw that horse over and over again.
Come on, people, just trace it. Let's just.
Oh dear.
Oh shit.
Yeah. No, I don't mind drawing horses. I actually like drawing horses.
There you go.
I will draw the horse because I'll draw anything. I don't care.
Yeah.
Draw an 8-legged horse because it is a mythological story.
Oh, it's Oda's 8-legged horse.
Yeah, yeah.
See, I know stuff.
I don't want to because then somebody's going to accidentally come out same comic.
Well, I'm becoming the POC personal color artist. The last 2 jobs I did were 8-page jobs for this gaming company, Mythic Americas. My old writing partner called me up and said, "Hey, do you want to do this story? I could even get you paid," which was like next to nothing. I'll do anything for him for free. We published a comic together. We worked almost through the the late 90s to 2000s doing the conventions and stuff. And it was all mythic Mayan and Aztec myths. That if you watch that Black Panther 2 and Namor comes up with all that stuff, that's what they all were wearing. And now I'm doing 1 page for John here, and it's all African Americans. And I feel,
See, as much as I love the Aztec and
don't tell anybody
the Mayan,
that that I can't, I'm not exactly a person of color.
That's right. Yeah. Marcus is drawing half black people, and you're not black.
Yeah, that's the last 2 things.
Yeah.
Boy.
I don't know.
I've also been drawing like unhappy
I don't
face.
know Aztec and I don't know Mayan because the names are so hard for me to pronounce. I'm a big.
It was a lot of reference. It was a lot of reference, and some of it's real, and it's a game like it's a role playing. It's a board game like Warhammer, except for indigenous peoples. And this guy created this. Some people know about it. And they go to the Gen Con and all this stuff, and he's my writer he's like one of their big. Like marketer, actually, even though he's kind of old school. So he could call me anytime, but those are hard. They're so hard to draw. There's a lot of talking and people like little kids getting killed. Because it's a myth. It's the ones. This is what happens. You know enough about mythological things. Nice things don't happen to everybody.
No.
And I was like, I don't really want to draw this. And this little kid and his dad getting beaten in one of them. They throw off the guy. So all towns are getting destroyed because that's what the god wants.
Crum,
I
have
have to show real stuff. That's even worse.
Crum, do you play role-playing games?
Yeah, I was actually running one for a while during the dark times because we couldn't meet up with anybody. I had a 4-camera setup, and I was running one of the old there's the old Star Wars 5-die game. That system, and it actually was like a domino that fell and like ruined my life slightly. It actually enriched my life, but I call it ruined because it's how I got into 3D printing, because I started printing all the figures for all the campaigns I was writing, and then painting them, and then started building the landscapes, and it was like, this is getting out of control. But it was good times. But yeah, I was supposed to actually start a new campaign with an old buddy from like junior high who I ended up talking to again for a while.
They use die 6s for everything.
No, they use 5, 6 die, like die 6.
Yeah, I've played.
It was actually a pretty handy system because it kind of just simplified. Like it was just a question of how many of them do you roll. That's it. You didn't have to try and deal with like the different configurations.
Our friend Travis was running that game, and he was a rookie DM, and I remember the first adventure we encountered these aliens, and the aliens they released these like mines, and it would attach to our ship, and it would just drain our energy. So that was like the problem of the week. If it was like a Star Trek episode, we'd be running around. So we actually we had to like
encounter a Farpoint.
Yeah, something like that. We had, maybe he ripped it off or whatever. So we beamed a couple of them in. We managed to beam a couple of them, and we studied them. So then I was like, okay, as the captain, the engineer, incorporate this into our arsenal. And the next adventure that we played, I'm trying to shoot. He's like, that's not supposed to happen. I'm like, well, haven't you played a role playing game? You fight the orc, you beat the orc, sword, So, and then I'm getting mad because I play a superhero game, and my friends are beating the bad guys, and they're taking the bad guys' equipment. I'm like, Reed Richards doesn't have Dr. Octopus's arms. He just surrenders that stuff to the powers that be, and then the next adventure, he's back to being Reed Richards again. So.
My
Nick,
problem is I built a bunch of stuff because of the one buddy. I'm like, this guy's a troublemaker. He's going to be the problem, right? I got to outwit him. And then he was the most straight-laced player, and his wife and her friend were doing the craziest shit ever that I was not ready for. And at one point, they killed some innocent person and then used their body on a tripwire to see what would happen. And I'm like, what is wrong with the two of you? He's the one that's supposed to be doing this stuff, and you're the necromancers throwing around dead bodies to trip mines, and it was demented. It was funny, but it was like I was not ready for the two of you to be the problem.
Yeah.
So,
Nick,
I have. Yeah. I played quite a few games. One of the games that I really liked was DC Heroes. It had a pretty interesting system to it. Every time you had an extra point in any attribute is actually double the previous in terms of power. And so at first it was kind of really weird, just this exponential growth of everybody having powers. But once you kind of realize that, you have to sort of fit everything from a normal human being all the way up to gods and everything else. You're like, oh, okay, I can see how this works pretty easily. And it was all 10D, right? It was all 10-sided dice. So it really there's a lot of people who didn't really dig it. And I actually found that it was very speedy because I like getting into the role-playing stuff. The rules and stuff, I don't mind, but I don't want them to get in the way. That was one of the things I liked about DC Heroes. But I've played everything from when I remember, and this is amazing, when I was a kid, to this day, I have to ask my dad. I don't even know if he'll remember. I was probably about 8 years old. It was the year 1985. I don't remember exactly, but I opened the closet, and in there was the original D&D red box. I don't know why my dad had this thing. It wasn't even opened. I found it. I brought it into my bedroom, told nobody. He didn't even seem to notice that it was gone. And I would open it, and I didn't have any friends to play. I could read, but I mean, there was some complications there. No one's showing me how to play it or anything like that. But I was completely enamored. And the drawings weren't very good, but you're so young that
they were charming.
It was, yeah. Well, and it was just something I'd never seen before. So there's goblins and all this stuff, and it was just amazing. And then the dice blew your mind because you'd seen adults play with dice, and it was always the 6-sided. It's just cubes. You don't think about it. I've never seen
any other dice before that.
And then all of a sudden,
what is this? Yeah,
it's crazy. It was so otherworldly. It just completely teleported me, even though I had no one to play with for the longest time. And then eventually I got into Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, AD&D, and played that for forever. Ran that. I was constantly running that all the time for my friends.
Yeah, you must have been the DM, right?
Yeah, easily, all the time. Actually, to the point where I was kind of tired of it. I kind of just wanted to play because there's just so much prep and it was such a I loved it. I loved running campaigns, but it just after a while you just kind of want to play.
Well, the pressure's on. I still get nervous. When my buddies all come over, I get nervous because I'm like, everybody's entertainment for the night depends on me, and I'm working, and these guys got kids. I don't have kids, so they got an extra pressure, and for them to get away is more special, and it's all on me, you know. And I get some, and I always tell my wife I want to cancel a half hour before everybody showed up.
And then just have a lot of food.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's the running joke. We got to have a bag of Funyuns because that's the stereotype
totally.
of the role-playing game.
Totally.
But yes,
8 years old in 1985. I was like a sophomore in college in 1985.
yeah,
I really don't like any of you people. So
the funny thing,
I was
I was 8 years old in
105 years old.
1973.
All right, Marcus,
it's
I'm
still the
106
same
years old.
whenever
All
we
right,
play
it's
role
fine.
play.
I feel much better now. Thank you, Crow.
It's a bunch of nerds sitting around the table talking about killing. The only thing is we can afford those food. You know,
I remember when they came out, Dungeons and Dragons.
it
and
used to be White Castles, and now we're getting like
I had some of that
really
stuff.
great Italian place. We'll get a 6-foot sub or something. So
Yeah.
same
They could
nerd.
never get a game going. We could never really get a game going
You
consistently.
live near Dennis. Dennis is dressing up as a
Well,
musket.
I live near Dennis now, but when I was a kid, would really
Go
get into it. We tried to play a couple of times, and I remember I worked in a bookstore, and those books always sold. Whatever came in, the D&D stuff went out
Yeah.
really quickly.
You know, I remember that red book. There was a picture of a wizard with the pointy hat, and it was for the web spell, but the web was like a glob. And I remember looking at that picture, and it just drove me crazy because the spell said web, but the illustration was like a green slime, and like I was like
Unacceptable.
yes, I was irrationally angry. But, you know, I should
You'll have to call Tim Truman and ask him why he drew it that way.
I never forget. I was a little kid. We were riding bikes, and I had this friend John, and John was a couple of years older than me, and he was into guitars and playing guitars and rock and roll and everything like that. And I remember when Star Wars came out, my brother took me to see Star Wars, and the next day I'm telling John about it, and he goes, that I don't like that kind of stuff. And I just looked at him like we were friends, and right
Friendship
then,
over.
are we really friends? You know, this guy doesn't like Star Wars, you know, and then we were watching the Ralph Bakshi Lord of the Rings cartoon.
Lord of the Rings, yeah.
And he just goes, "What is this, like old guy, like a wizard? He's got magic. I don't like this stuff."
Oh,
And we were riding our bicycles, and we went to my friend Mike's house, and his older brothers were playing Dungeons and Dragons, and you know, we would just ride bikes, stop at Mike's house, and they just sitting around. And I just remember he had the graph paper, they're making the map, and one of the guys shot an arrow, and he rolled the dice, and he erased the 12, and he turned it to 11 because he only had 11 arrows left. I was fascinated. I didn't know about you know, this was before I even. What are you guys doing? And they were just annoyed because little kids were bothered.
of course, yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, Dungeons and Dragons," and he's like, "What is that? Why did you erase that?" Because I shot an arrow. I'm like, "Oh, so if you get down to 0, you can't do that anymore." You know, and I thought that was the coolest thing. And I just remember we got back on the bike, and he's like, "You like that stuff? That's like fag stuff." And I was like, "I don't think we can be friends anymore." Like,
Yeah.
broken up with a friend.
Fired.
You know,
Fired right then and there.
I remember one time we were like 18 years old, and we would, you know, now at this point we're drinking and trying to pick up girls. You know what I mean? My friend had a van, and we were driving around. We were the cool guys with a van, you know. And this one guy, Jimmy, I had like 6 friends named Jimmy, but one of the friends, he would get drunk and then just start throwing punches at anybody. It would be me, it would be you, it would be Mark, whoever was around. He would just, and it hurt. You know, it hurt. It wasn't like, you know, like, knock it off, that hurts. It was like, oh my God, I think my nose might be broken. And here I am trying to talk to a girl, and there's blood, you know what I mean? I got blood on my shirt, my clothes are. So, you know, everybody was like, "Yeah, we going out tonight?" And everybody was like, "Yeah, but I don't want to go out if he's coming." And
He's going.
yeah, the guy goes, "I feel the same thing." So we actually went and picked him up, drove, went to the park, got out of the van, and then said, "We don't want to hang out with you anymore," and ran to the van and drove because we knew.
That's amazing.
You know, and that was like, you know, so we
I like the fact that it wasn't just that you told him you don't want to hang out with him. You took him somewhere to ditch him.
Yeah,
that's
we knew he
the
was
real. Just, that's the pièce de resistance.
And
I do play fantasy football, and fantasy isn't a name. So
when I made a fast friend playing a game, was actually a lifelong friend. This was in high school. Yeah, I was in high school. Actually, I don't know. Yeah, no, he was in high school too. He was like a year or two younger than I was. And I was, you know, school busing everywhere to get to school. And he hears that I've got something going on, and he's like, what is this thing? And I'm, we're playing Dungeons and Dragons. He's like, oh, that sounds cool. So he's like asking some questions, and you seem genuinely interested. And as a GM, you're always kind of like looking for new blood, right?
You need people.
Yeah, you need them, right? So you're just like,
Always
you're trying to
more.
sell it to them. I'm going all in, and I'm fairly decent at selling things. So I'm just like, here's the thing. And he's just blown away, and he says, how do I play? Like, can I play? And I'm like, yeah, we're having, first session here, blah, blah, blah. So he comes by, and this is what I mean by fast friend. Okay. His name's Pete Crom. You know who I'm talking about. So Pete, a couple years younger than I am. I've got a bunch of other guys that I'm playing with, and they're okay. Like they're there, but they're eating chips and pop and making jokes and whatever else. And the one guy is always talking about, I roll a 20, I'm going to skull fuck the dragon. Like, come on, dude. Like this sort of joking. I hate those clowns, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so he comes in. This is his first session.
Did she want me?
Yeah, really. Yeah. Pete's in. It's his first session.
That's why you're playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, really. and we roll his character, and now it's time to play. And when we get in there, and I basically set the scene. It was really simple. There was like a perception check to see whether or not they notice like something going on in the bushes. They do, or Pete's character does, and he follows where it's going and finds out that there's this well, and he walks up to the well and he sees like nothing is black, and he starts dropping things down there, and there's no sound, no nothing. And so he says, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab the bucket. I'm going to, with my dagger, cut some holes in it. I'm going to put my lantern in there, and then I'm going to put it down, and I'm going to instant friends. Yeah. I'm just like, this is your first session. This is your first, not really encounter, but this is your first sort of like move.
You're thinking about that. Yeah.
And you are already there, and you're 2 years younger than everybody else in this room, and nobody else can put that kind of shit together. Okay. You're in. This is a player right here. And for the rest of his life, he still plays. He runs things. He's like a couple of best friends that he's got from college. He went to school for robotics, and he continuously plays, and he's actually working on his own gaming system right now. So yeah.
Now, I'm sorry, Marcus, that you never played. It sounds like you missed out on something fun. But like when you think back, Crom and Nick, when you think back about these adventures, do you think about graph sheets and dice and pencils, or is it a movie in your head?
Well, for me, it's a movie in my head, but I mean, for my players, I would set up graph paper and so on, because there'd be just so many logistical questions.
Now, when you were thinking about that, because when you thinking about, I don't know, a guy dressed with a hood, literally picking up the bucket, or were you thinking about Pete sitting over there at the table with the pencil in his hand, rolling dice to see, you know what I mean?
No, I'm visual. I'm completely.
When we were playing, but I remember the characters. Like I play a lot of superhero role playing games, and I think. Like sometimes I have like Jack Kirby images in my head of guys rushing through space and fighting, and one guy punched this guy and he smashes through the wall. Sometimes we'll do a street level and it turns into like a Frank Miller comic in my head.
I think I know what you're asking, because I think like some players or some people, they're auditory. Like so I'll tell them, you punch so and so, and they hear the word punch and they understand the word punch, but they're not necessarily visualizing punching, you know what I mean, or whatever the action is. I've found that there are some people that are like that, where I think what you're asking is, do you visualize it? And I'm like, yeah, like it's epic for sure. Yeah. How else could I become an artist?
Yeah, I have one of my friends who played with us. During the course of playing, he found out, what is that called when you have no mental image in your head? Aphantasia or something like that.
Idiocy?
Yeah, no. He's actually the smartest person I've ever met in real life.
A buddy of mine has it. I don't know what the name of it is, but he has the same problem. He doesn't visualize anything in his mind.
Right, like when you say apple, he just like, he intellectually knows what an apple is, but I will, not only will I see an apple in my head, I could rotate the apple and I could feel my hand. I can kind of feel an apple.
When I'm drawing the figure in any pose or whatever, I can feel the way the hip is, like I as I'm drawing it, I can feel my pencil kind of, it's weird to I don't know, but like I can feel my pencil lead going over my hip, going around my elbow, around my shoulder, whatever. Like I can actually feel the pose and then feel my pencil kind of going over that pose. If that makes sense.
Marcus, you draw. Does that make sense? Do you understand?
Makes sense.
So you're nodding your head.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because you're thinking of your own, like it's your body.
Your own physicality.
I mean, you're not the superhero, but you all have the same muscles.
This is how well I draw. This is the notes.
Well, I used to teach drawing to kids too, so I really do think about that. Yeah,
that is cool. That must have been cute. That must have been fun.
It was fun. I always say kids don't like comics. So I'm teaching in the '90s and in an art store. I was a crafts manager. I knew all about decoupage, and they had classes. And eventually, the place got bought by a banker. They got rid of the classes. So I set myself up to do cartoon class. I put a Superman with a mullet because that's it, and a Little Mermaid. And that class was full every week. We had once a week. We do an advanced class. They want to do another one, and whether they read the comics or not, they wanted to draw something,
It's
and then I had private lessons, and one of the kids went to SVA after. That I had private lessons for a long time, and he's an animator down in Florida. He does the boring stuff that nobody wants to do.
It's funny
on the computer, and he went. So so I do think about all that. The easier how to draw the stuff, like watching Dan Lawless's thing. Yeah, he gets really advanced, but all the beginning stuff is just all the same for everybody. And then we thought everybody draws until they're about 10, 8, 9, 10, and then the ones who are artists keep drawing. And the ones who are artists don't draw anymore, but everybody does some sort of drawing. And everybody can make a face that they can be, to get them to draw a face that they can be proud of. I would do everything backwards. I'd do something that the kids could complete so they would be happy whether it was a face that's smiling or something.
It's funny. When I was in university, I had a whole course on comics because I was like, haha, credits.
I want the whole college like that.
The thing he had everybody do, and it was a pretty interesting little exercise, is that he gave us 3 minutes to draw ourselves. He's like, do a self-portrait. I'll give you 3 minutes. And then he's like, I'm going to give you a minute. Try it again. Now I'm going to give you 30 seconds. And he was like, notice how the 30-second one is probably the better one out of all of what you've done. Because everybody overthinks what they're doing.
Oh yeah,
professional. And you were talking about like kids, they draw and then they get to this place, and I'm like, yeah, I wonder if it's that you get to the place where you start to overthink it, and then you lose it because you just too many.
I think that's true.
All that, right?
Are you an artist, Crom?
Oh God, no. I'm a writer. I always have been, really, like, since I was a kid. And it's funny, like, to your question, I'm far more auditory than I am visual. Like, I can have the movie if I kind of like stop and focus. Whereas like Axe, we've worked together a long time. It just happens, right? It's reflexive almost for him. For me, I'm like, I have to like stop and visualize things. But I am much more, the way people talk is far more what I get.
When you were in school and you had a teacher, then both of you guys. It sounds like he's fighting.
All right. Marcus is assembling a car.
I know.
Sorry, what were you saying?
Both of you guys, when you were in school and the teacher was teaching, sometimes the teacher would do like a visual lesson, and sometimes the teacher would do, just a regular lecture. How did you guys learn? What was better for you?
I ignored everything that was happening most of the time.
I'm sorry?
I just ignored everything most of the time. I was a terrible student. It didn't help that I was in the French immersion program. And then as I moved towards junior high, so grade 7, I started to not pay attention. I was so bored all the time. And
my brother was like
lose the language. And when I started to lose the language, then it's like, well, now you can't help but not pay attention because you don't know what anyone's saying. Like, I started to drift away from me, and after the 7th grade, they were like, hey, you should leave. And I'm like, all right. And so I had to change schools. And it was kind of a revelation. I moved. This is going to sound like me bragging about myself, but I am just answering your question. And it was a fascinating discovery.
I moved to the school of absolute brilliance.
Oh no. Let me put it to you this way. I moved to a junior high called Louis Riel, a man who was hung as a traitor. Anyway, I came in late, and because I hadn't been there for grade 7, I didn't have the electives track. Right, you're supposed to pick your electives in grade 7, like drama, home ec, what have you, and you take them 7, 8, 9. So if you come in 8, well, you didn't take 7, so you're kind of screwed. I wanted drama, couldn't get it. I ended up in a few other things, but the drama teacher decided he's going to open up the play we were doing that year to everybody. It doesn't have to just be drama students. It was The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton.
Okay.
And
Matt
he picks me to be Daryl. Why? Because I'm a giant. I was a giant even as a kid. I'm this huge. So I'm the older brother. I'm the oldest brother. I'm Patrick Swayze, which was a weird choice. But he gives everybody the script on Monday. And he's like, I want you to start reading this. I want you to have this, because we're going to try and go off book at the end of next week. Off book, meaning we're going to stop having your script in your hand. You got to memorize it. And I came back the next Monday. And I have my lines. My book is in the back pocket.
Yeah, I couldn't do what Crom's about to reveal here.
He's like, wait a minute, you know your lines. I'm like, yeah, I know my lines. And he's like, wow, that's pretty impressive. And then we start going through, we're doing rehearsal, and people are forgetting their lines, and I'm giving them their lines. I'm cueing them their lines. I memorized the play in a month or in a week, right? That was the thing that they discovered. And they were like, they actually thought I was kind of an idiot when I first came into the school because of how bad my grades were. And then they were like, so some of these things are a waste of your time. We're actually going to have you teach some of the younger kids how to read, because there were kids who had trouble reading, and they would send me to go do it. They're like, you clearly don't need the reading part of this. You've got that. So it was interesting. I'm definitely like a word guy. Like if you give me something to read, I can learn it very quickly.
You give me a phone number and I instantly forget it as soon as I'm not looking at it.
I remember phone numbers.
I
have all of my credit cards memorized. I don't need to have the cards with me.
But I wasn't good with numbers till I worked for the phone company. Then I got good.
Yeah. Then it drills you into it, because I used to install internet, which, if you ever fix it and install it, it starts to drill into your head.
I do that. I do that now. That's my job.
That's what you were saying, right? You fix it.
And public schools for a couple of years, and I had this one student I'll never forget. His name was Mohapi, and this kid, he just was, just trouble. Like he was and this is 3rd grade, and he was like a wise ass, But I liked him. I don't know what it is. I took a liking to all the troublemaker kids, so I just said, what's the matter? And I said, you're bored, and he's like, yeah. I said, well, what could I do to help you? So he's like, I don't know. So I just went to the older teachers, and I got some 6th grade math books, and I gave it to him, and he was doing them, and the answers were right. And it dawned on me, this kid's too smart. So I remember I talked to the guidance counselor, and they didn't believe me. I talked to the principal, they didn't believe me. And I talked to his mother, and I said, I said, I'm a school teacher. I'm trained to teach the average kid. I said, I'm not trained for special ed. I said, and she started like crying almost, like, because she didn't get what I was saying. I said, your son is special ed in the opposite direction. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trained to teach geniuses either. I said, what you should do, because the school's not backing me up on this, get this, because they just see him as a troublemaker. He was like an Eddie Haskell. He was getting the other kids in trouble. You know what I mean? He was just mature. She actually got a test. And then
I got that reference.
And everybody else like, oh, Eddie Haskell, yeah. But they got him a test, and then that test set off like alarms, and the school district came down, and they were like, where's this Mohapi? I'm like, oh, the kid that I was telling you was a genius. So from 3rd grade, he left my school and went to another school. And I remember that mother was just like, she was getting frustrated with the kid too. He scored something like the top 1% in Queens on standardized tests at the end of the year. This kid was a freaking genius. So, I don't blame the public school, because you got to but
It's designed to work on the bell curve, right?
Right.
It's designed to work the middle of the bell, right?
Yeah. And I say this about comic books too. 20% of the people are going to love my comic, no matter what I do. 20% of the people are going to hate it, no matter what I do. So I'm fighting for that middle 60%. You know what I mean?
That's really optimistic.
Right. I'm an optimistic guy.
I mentioned, I said you remind me of The Outsiders. I went to elementary school through high school with Matt and Kevin Dillon.
Oh yeah.
Like I go talk to my best friend from school who I visited in New York last year, the Gooch, and they go, "How's Matt doing?" And he'll still be in contact with guys who are really Matt's best friends. Oh yeah, he's out living in Italy. Yeah, he was a greaser, he was a pain in the neck. But his father
he's tiny.
Was the portrait artist for Wingfoot Golf Club. And what you don't know is that his uncle is Alex Raymond, who created Flash Gordon. Now, he never knew Flash, which is why Flash Gordon looks a little like Matt Dillon if you really look, because that's the family. Oh, okay. He has the Alex Raymond ears. Yeah, and he was kind of a grumpy kid. He was like a troublemaker, but he wasn't that bright, though. He wasn't a genius.
That's why he became an actor.
Well, he was caught cutting class in the 7th grade, but by a local talent scout who we all knew, and he just had the perfect look for a movie just like The Outside. From Rumblefish, I think, was his first movie. He had that Essie hit look.
But I played the system. I went to a Catholic school, and I brought my cassock and surplice. For those of you who don't know, that's the altar boy uniform. And I told the nuns that I was going to go. Oh, there's a funeral. And they'd be like, okay. They wouldn't even check because they would never.
He was just cutting class, smoking a cigarette.
Lying about 40 minutes. And then I would roll up the Catholic and surplus and go next door and play pinball for 2 hours.
Matt Dillon was just a kid. You were an evil genius. That's
this is what I remember at Matt Dillon, to tie it back to comic books. I would wear there were very few comic book t-shirts, but I would wear the ones we could find. My parents would try to get them. And he would make fun of me for reading comic books. Like in the 3rd grade.
Yeah, now he probably thinks.
But he was a good artist too. He could draw. His brother, who I got to know, his older brother, was a painter, and he was a pretty good painter. Had some modeling work. They all look the same, but they're pretty talented family.
Nick, you brought up some pictures. You want me to bring these up, and you'll tell me why?
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
Okay, so this was the first one you brought up.
Yeah. So
this
is.
Let me see if I could get that on the full screen.
Yeah.
That change anything.
It's too bad you can't really zoom in or anything.
Looks right.
Oh yeah.
So that's a splash page for Crom the Destroyer.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Too bad we can't zoom in because I can show you so much more with that. But I would share my screen, but apparently I have to give Brave permission to do so, my browser to do so, and I'd have to leave and come back. But yeah, so that's one page, and then the other one I think you've seen as well.
Oh, this is the one that you just showed.
Yeah.
These are great.
Okay, Sean, you're not allowed to show any of my work after Nick ever. So I just want to let you know that. It's really good.
Yeah, that is really good. Yeah, RJ said he loves the way you draw women, and I have to agree. Yeah.
Well, there's no women in there, but yeah.
Oh, that's not a woman up there, or
yeah, really. Oh, that woman. Oh, yeah, right.
She's a demon.
Yeah, she's a demon.
Yeah, my ex-girlfriend's not a woman. She's a demon too, so I know exactly. That is awesome.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, that looks great.
Yeah, that's why I keep saying, Nick, I got this mythological story, if
is your book now, I can't post the link. Is it on Indiegogo or on FNC?
Indiegogo right now.
Okay, yeah. No, I have trouble backing on FMC for whatever reason. So. Nothing against FMC. It's the way I back, the way I use the money.
Right.
Yeah, those look gorgeous. Good. So you write and he draws. Why don't you two guys make a comic there, Crom? Did I just bring up a sword?
No, I think we just we're better in our sort of separate domains. I think
we're better if we stay away from each other.
We help each other with each other's stories and stuff. So like Crom's writing novels, and I'm doing a comic. So I'll show him script, and he'll show me manuscript, and just sort of help each other with like story ideas and you know, what I was talking about before about the idea of the unified effect, you know, that every scene has to have some sort of emotion of which you're driving toward, you know, and that all the actions and all the decisions and everything in the scene have to actually build to that unified effect, so that the, you know, reader has that emotion or that feeling, whatever your intention is, like that kind of thing. So we talk about stuff like that. Sometimes our conversations get a little too high level. We get into the weeds about, like, you know, various metaphysical
Our
things
own
about
asses.
story and stuff. Yeah, totally. But yeah, no, we help each other with our respective mediums.
I have an apprentice at work, and he was like, I was talking to him about my comic, and he's like, "Oh, that's so cool. You know, I like comics too." And he was taking out his phone and he was showing me his drawings, and it's good, but it's literally like, what's that? I don't even know these characters from manga, but it's like that Dragon Ball Z Goku or something like that.
Oh no, yeah.
So, and it looked really good. And he's like, "Yeah, I'd like to do something." I was like, "Oh, cool." So we were talking about, like, you know, you what you have here is a bunch of static images, and it's not telling a story. It's Goku facing this way, and you know, and then it's Goku running. I said, "But you know, there's no backgrounds." I said, "You're really good with this, but could you?" And it's all flat. Like, I'm staring right in the middle of the triangle or the rectangle. I'm looking at Goku's eyes. I said, "You don't have any lower angles, you know, it's all." And he was like, "Wow." To his credit, he didn't get mad at me, you know. To his credit, he was like, "This is all fast." I said, So I was showing him Renzo's paint, you know, drawings, and I'm like, "Tell me the story," you know. And here's a kid that didn't even know I was making a comic book first thing this morning, and now at lunchtime, he's telling me my comic story through the storytelling of Renzo's artwork, you know. And I said, "You see what I'm seeing? You see how, like, the characters over here, and then in this panel, it's an invert, you know. If the bad guys over here and the good guys over here, in the next panel, they're facing us." They're inverted. The mind is animating in between the gutters. You know, it was such a fun conversation, you know, because he's a young kid who's a kid. He's 22 years old. He's young, and he was into animating, and he's into drawing. And it was like, wow. And he's like, "Let me see your drawing." I'm like, "I can't draw." And he's like, "You can talk about all this art." I said, "No, but I've been reading comics. I know storytelling. I'm writing scripts and stuff, but I just can't draw, you know." So,
well, it's why it's possible for you to draw it and give it to someone to read.
Right. And when Renzo gives me back the pages, I'm like, this is exactly what I was picturing in my head.
How many projects?
I'm sorry.
How many projects is Renzo working on at once?
A lot. You know, he just finished up Coney Waves. He's doing something for Thomas Valiant.
It's like Schrodinger's cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's working for Aaron Sparrow.
Well, also keep in mind that a lot of guys will have something and they're waiting or whatever. So,
but he's working for Aaron Sparrow too, which is why I thought you could have him on
Thomas Valiant.
You should get all the Renzo people that Renzo works on and have a Renzo stream. Like you get Aaron Sparrow, you know, RJ, and whoever, Mark Polton, and they all talk about how great Renzo is. And that would be like a good way to promote, hey, my comic's being drawn by Renzo.
And he's the nicest guy.
Seems like a real nice guy, but he's like, some of the artists, it's interesting, don't mind being hired, and some of them have the burning desire to create and crowdfund their own book. I just find that fascinating because I started all this because I drive a lot. So what do I want to learn? I want to learn about crowdfunding. The most popular ones that when I was researching were the CGers because, you know, they made money. I would look at Kickstarter and like, this one's making $10, this one's making $12. This is a weird boob comic. This is a weird manga comic, you know, and they weren't making money like I thought, you know. And so, you know, that's why I got into this. And now I realize that I wanted very badly to take my characters from the 90s and crowdfund with my writer. But, you know, he's not interested, but it's not a burning desire. And I do work. I have to work. I don't know if I really can draw like that many pages and what's on time, you know. I can't sit at home.
Renzo was in advertising, I think, and quit his job. Yeah. Wants to do comics full time, so he's like, give me more.
Oh, so he could give him more. Yeah. I was not even wondering. I was talking to Dennis Turner one time. I bumped into in the store, and I'm like, I wanted to crowdfund. I don't know if I can.
Yeah.
You know, all the extra work. You know, these people do it by themselves, and I'm like, that's a lot. Like all of the fulfilling and all the business aspects of it, and it's hard enough for me to draw something.
You know, Renzo was just asking me, he's like, you know, what are you going to do? Like, you know, are we going to do issue 2? I said, Renzo, as soon as we launch issue number 1, if it looks like it's a modest hit, I'm sending you the script to number 2, and we're going to just start working. You know what I mean? Like, but I don't want to say don't take any work waiting for me. You know what I mean?
Right.
The guy's got kids. You know, you know what I mean? So I just hit a button, but I would love to. I would love to say let's just keep working, because I would love to. What, every 3 months?
I was going to ask you if you plan on him having him go on like issue 2, because you're different characters.
He's my superhero artist for till the wheels fall off. Yeah. So anyway,
I got to run, guys. Just I didn't want to interrupt you while you were talking there.
Hey, it was great meeting you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for
the chat. A lot of fun.
It was finally, and again, seriously, thank you for becoming a member. I wish I could make it with you a while, you know, but
it's all good. It's why it's all about bringing everybody up, right? Like we're all winning. So I appreciate it, and we'll chat again soon.
Hey, buddy, don't let the door hit you on the way out.
I'm gonna kill him one day. Just one day, he's gonna be gone. And if you wonder, if you're like, what happened to Axe, you'll all know.
Yeah, Axe got it.
That was his exit.
I was thinking about CG and Comicsgate. You know, now that like this drama and feuding, and I forget who asked me that. They're like, well, what does it mean to be Comicsgate? Like, why did you join Comicsgate? And at the risk of like being the outcast, I never joined Comicsgate. You know, my response was, "Are you a Gentile?" And he went, well, yeah. I said, well, why are you a Gentile? And he's like, because I'm not Jewish. I said, there you go. Did you join that group, or did other people define that group for you?
Mm-hmm.
And did other people create that group? Could you leave that group? The only way to leave being a Gentile is to convert to Judaism. So I'm Comicsgate, whether I like it or not. Zach's Comicsgate, whether he likes it or not. We're all because the Heather Antoses and the Kelly Sue DeConnicks and the Alex DeCampis, they created that group. You know, I love to talk to Mark Wade and be like, you know, Mark, you created Comicsgate when you got Zach banned from Antarctic Press. You know, you created this group. I don't know if they made the name, because I remember there was Gamersgate, but that was before my time, and I'm not a video gamer, so I didn't really follow that. But all of a sudden, Comicsgate, and I was like, yeah, I guess I'm Comicsgate because I'm not Marvel and DC and Image. You know what I mean? So So when I see people like, you kick him out of comics, it's like Gentiles can't kick other Gentiles out of the Gentile group. You know, there is no leaving. You know, and there's hundreds of thousands of different Gentiles. You know what I mean? You know, so there's no Gentile leader. There's no Gentile like cult. You know what I mean? It's just you're not this. You're not Jewish, therefore you're a Gentile. You're not Marvel, DC.
Well, and the price to pay to not be Comicsgate is like
you got to work for Marvel. You got to be the mainstream.
There's more than that, because didn't you see that thing that was going around on Twitter where like people had to pledge allegiance to that like I will not sexually abuse, I will not like that thing. Like honestly,
I saw that.
I cannot like when I saw that going around, I'm like, does nobody understand? I mean, okay, first of all, this almost makes me sound like as though I understand history, and I'm not here to say or profess that I am some sort of history major. I believe you are, John.
Yeah,
but
I'm a history major.
Does nobody know or understand or remember history? That kind of nonsense, right? Like this idea that you have to pledge to these. Oh my gosh! Like what is going on? I when I saw that circulating, I just was like sick to my stomach, thinking, how far have we fallen? Like how far are we down this path? It was shocking. And there was a couple of people that I'm friends with, a couple of people in the industry, and I saw them sign this thing, and I was just like, I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, it was really creepy.
Completely creepy. Yeah, exactly.
I think I even said it to Ethan when he was on my channel that I'm not much of a joiner. You know, I'm kind of an individual person, and you know, I jokingly refer to George Carlin when he said, I'm a people person. I'm a people person. You know, just today I was talking to, I was waiting online to buy coffee at
Yeah.
and I struck this woman. She just came to New York from Turkey, and we're talking, and I'm introducing her to the different types of. That's the way I am. I love people, but 6,000, or 7 people, I kind of shut up. That's why I got a little uncomfortable when a 5th person came into our panel tonight. But I kind of thought it was Pops, So that's cool. I already know, but I like people, but groups kind of freak me out. And like George Carlin said, it's like once you start having groups, we start having pledges and beliefs and ideas and dogmas, and I just don't like that. I'm very but Marcus, I will talk. He'll tell you, I'll talk to you until your ears fall off. Nick, I'll talk to you until your ears bleed, and I'll enjoy you. And I 100% believe that. Once you've been on my channel, you're my friend. You know what I mean? I know Nick is this curmudgeon over there.
I need a haircut.
But I'm like loyal to everybody. I wouldn't reveal your private DMs. First of all, I can't believe that is even a situation that's going on. That disgusts me to no end. And I don't talk about you, even if there's a valid point, unless we're face to face.
Yeah, for me on the private DMs front, like I would never type anything into a private DM that I didn't think was going to be out in the public anyway. So it is kind of surprising that if people.
So I might as well tell you all those Nick axes are jerks that I was sending to Marcus.
Totally. I would like anything that I would say in a DM or in a private conversation would be something that I would say to somebody else. Especially if they ask me directly. I don't know. That's just a policy for myself. It's always worked for me. And so the idea of like just having these private DMs and you're having like, I don't want to call it a whisper network because I think that's maybe a little too far. I mean, maybe there were some that were participating in a whisper style kind of like situation, but there are other people that were in that group. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about, John. There are other people that were in that group. Like Graham Nolan was in the group, right? Like
Graham Nolan, Andy Smith was in there.
So and then there's this other part, like where there's one thing where you're scheming and scams, right? Like where you're actually like planning to do something, whatever the hell that is. And then there's the other people who are just simply venting. I hate to say it, but if someone's venting, and venting can get pretty venomous. Like when you get angry and you get upset.
Yeah, I say things.
I say all kinds of things all the time. You can't stop me, just like now. But like,
oh yes, I can. Click.
No, but yeah, like this idea that if you're going to take venting as some sort of betrayal or something like that, I don't know. Like maybe you thought you had a closer relationship. I can understand that would hurt. You believed you had a closer relationship, but there's another part, which is the self-reflection part. If I came across DMs and someone had a real problem with me and I read those DMs, it might hurt. It might sting at the first.
Right.
But in about 5 minutes, I would be like, I have to talk to this person. I have to talk to this person. I have to figure out where this went sideways. I need them to know that I've seen these and that I don't want to judge them for it because I want to know what the impetus was. Like what actually is the cause of this animosity, this whatever it is. And if they didn't want to talk to me, well, that's not on me, that's on them. But the idea that I'm going to take like that and blow it up like it's been blown up, I'm not so sure I would be like doing that kind of thing. As much as I say that this is all fake,
right? At
the same time, you yourself as an individual, do you not have principles?
Yeah.
Like forget whatever this is.
Got their feelings hurt because of teasing. You know what? Then apologize.
I think that the people in that room took. Well, I think that the teasing of the Dungeoneer part, I would, I don't watch all of that stuff. That's not too late. Like, okay, there's an hour. I'm going to sleep. I'm falling asleep. That's enough. But I do think that because I know some of the people, like I was at HeroesCon last year, and I met,
And
I
you
hung out with Vaughn, and I know a couple of, I know how that gets together. We
And you
get
were
together,
his pants and
we,
we all know.
right, we go to dinner, and there's a group of fans and crew, and everybody's treated the same, and and so you do get to know those guys a little more. Like I know Moromi a little more because I hung out with him for like most of a couple of days, right?
Mhm.
I feel like I know him. No, because I've seen him in person.
Yeah.
So part of this is his personal thing. And then so they went and did this thing, and I wouldn't have done it, but I'm old. I don't want to go to those. I didn't want to go to those places when I'm young. I know it's all
Between
trouble.
you, me, and
And they
everybody,
thought it was pretty funny. And then when it is funny, they had a good time, but they did not.
If you knew me in my 30s,
No, I know, but that's not right. But would you go now?
about my past, you know what I mean?
But it's still funny. Like it's not. It's something you can make fun of. That's fine. It's fine. You can make fun of going to the baseball game too. And they got really butthurt about it too fast. And then they went together and talked about it. And there were people that are valued of CG value in there. And PTP already put his split in at Heroes Con with that weird stream that he did.
If I'm making fun of you and then I find out that I hurt your feelings, I'm friends.
But they're millennials. They don't take it like you could take it. I was teased when I was a kid. My whole life. I got so mad I jumped on a kid during class one time.
Yeah.
But that's how you grow up.
To hurt.
But they don't grow up like this. They can't take it.
Right.
And they're in their 30s. PTP's 40. I'm not picking on him.
I'm not picking.
I don't know him, but he seemed to like, I want to pull these guys away from that, and it got strange. Some of the guys went like Kelsey got really mad at John. I did see that Rumble stream, and they did argue, John Malin and Kelsey Shannon, and they were mad at each other, and Kelsey was white knighting for Patrick. And he didn't even go to the dungeon. He hung out with Phil Diaz at the hotel bar, which is what we usually do, by the way. You go to the thing and you go back to the hotel bar. I sit there and talk to Jim Shooter or something, or June Brigman, who I know from years ago, or something like that. But this is not unknown. Stuff like this happens in comics. Like June Brigman put pressure on Rainey not to be in Comicsgate. So this happens in real life. It's not just. This just happens with creative people. Period. It's kind of blowing over at this point.
Chops busted my whole life. I could take it, but
you live in New York. That's part of being a New Yorker.
And I see that they get upset. You say I'm sorry, man. I'm just busting chops.
Well, they got over upset about it. They didn't reach out to John and say, hey John, we don't want to stop. Could you just slow down a little on it? They didn't reach out to him at all. And what hurt them is that a few of them in there, particularly Kelsey, he's been paid like you're paying Renzo to do their comic stories. Each one of those have John, Shane, and Ethan have all hired Kelsey. Kelsey's still doing a story for Shane, and he's sitting there and effing him behind his back. That's just not right. That's not business. And Kelsey comes on like he's a big old bear, which he is, nice guy, which he is. But I was disappointed in him, to be honest with you. Him, and then Vaughn's a young guy. He doesn't know what he's doing. But he has a whole other crew. He's not this to promote his book. He should just hang out with Tucci and Niall. He'll be fine.
I don't know.
That's who he's from anyway. It's just the whole thing confused me.
If I went to work and I said, I heard that these guys are in the next room over there talking bad about me, they would laugh at me. Now I'm talking bad about you to your face. It's
it used to be that you would fight the guy. If it really got bad, you'd confront him.
Yeah.
And that would be it. You go outside and that's it. You want to go?
And you become best
That's
friends.
it. And these people don't do that. They don't get to the face. They'll go to face to face. All internet, like Nick said. It's all internet stuff.
It's all fake.
I don't know.
It's all fake. But these people knew each other, so it was less fake. But when they paid Narwhal. I mean, Narwhal's one of the great creators. And he was really put up. Nobody knew who if it weren't for Ethan. And he's sitting there saying mean things about Ethan. And because they want to, I don't know why. They're crazy. That's why. And we'll see when Norwell does a book, how well he does now, because there's going to be enough people mad. I don't care.
People have been on my channel, and I'm not saying anything bad about anybody.
Yeah.
No, it's not up to you to choose. Nobody's asking you to choose sides or anything. It's just the whole thing is. It all started with Dale. It started way before the Dungeoneers. It started with the Dale thing,
It's
and
easy for me to
PTP got paranoid about it.
I ignore things. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, but it's beyond it. We're just the fans. It's not going to worry you. It's not going to hurt your book. It's not going to hurt Nick's book. It's just those. It's above. It's a little above.
Well,
I
mean, I guess I'm old school. Unless you affected my family or you affected my income directly, it doesn't matter.
Exactly. I completely agree.
Just
But that's a bigger deal to me than the Eric July stuff. I don't care about that. I don't think much. I tried to listen to Eric before he started doing comics, and to be honest with you, I can't watch his YouTube stuff. I can't listen to his stuff. I can't understand him half the time. So
I don't have time to watch all these YouTube streams.
I don't know. I don't understand it. And then after a while, they all complain about Disney. What are they going to do about Disney? Robert Romano posted it. Disney made billions, like $389 billion with their failure at the movies. They make so much money, they're not going to care what anybody thinks.
I don't know.
They have their hands in everything.
I look at it like Star Wars disappointed me. Boom, the red X, like that Ghostbusters thing. It doesn't exist anymore.
Although I have to say, I have a better view of the sequels now. Because my kids, that's their Star Wars. They love the sequels. My oldest son, he loved those sequels, and he was a little blonde boy just like Luke in the first one, and so he really identified. He loved that stuff, and he loved Harry Potter particularly.
I still love the Harry Potter. Harry Potter got me to meet my wife. I'll always love her.
He read 3 Harry Potter books at one time.
When
I don't know how he keeps them straight.
That bothered me. And then she would say things that I liked, but I still love Harry Potter. You know what I mean? It's something. I don't particularly like the new movies, but that's a different story. Doctor Who kind of disappointed me. Boom! I still enjoy.
I was never a my dad watches Doctor Who.
The Marvel is disappointing me. I still like my Marvel. But the new stuff. I don't know what it is. It's like I developed my psychic armor. When you're getting beat up by your brothers and sisters, and then next week, there were 7 of us, so it was easy to form factions. And I was the 5th, so I was right in the middle. So these 2 were fighting. I would join that fight. Blah, 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 blah. Then these 2 were fighting. I joined that. Then these 2 were fighting, and after a while, it just became like you build armor, and it doesn't matter. So I just
my dad's affected by Doctor Who. He loves Doctor Who.
My biggest thing
he loves all fantasy and science fiction. He read all my comic books, every single one of them.
That's cool. I'm just disappointed. Is this what the fans want? Is the fans want?
Some of them want this. Some of them like it, and it's fascinating in one way. Some of them do like it. Some of them don't. I mean, some of them are comic fans.
Because
what confuses me most is the fans that get on X and just like can't stand certain it's not the other creators that we follow below, but the bigger creators. Why do you care? Why do you care? If you didn't back the book, what do you care if Ethan's 3 years late on his book? I don't care. Of course, I scammed my way into getting Wrecked Planet, so I'm good. I didn't wait.
I'm incredibly patient about campaigns. It don't bother me.
Andy was saying that when a campaign shows up, it shows up. I mean, as long as it shows up.
Yeah.
I haven't backed Rainbow the Brute, so I'm not stressed out about it. And I bought Cyber Frog Blood Honey, dinged and dented for $10. And then it comes in 3 days, because if you buy his eBay stuff, it comes right away. And then I backed Wrecked Planet I wasn't backing Wrecked Planet. I decided to back Wrecked Planet on the hat camp when you're selling all those hats and T-shirts. And then that's it. I don't care that much about all the tchotchkes because I don't know what to do with the cards. I just want the comics.
It's
and
funny.
Then,
I have a comic
and
book.
then one of his workers sent out a whole bunch of that campaign way early. So I was like one of the first people to get Wrecked Planet. I should have never got. I still should be waiting. He hasn't even fulfilled that part of Wrecked Planet. I got it way early, so I don't care. I mean, it is what it is. I don't know. It's just something that I don't understand what a late book is in crowdfunding because it's only an estimate, and it's much more personal. So how can you tell if you if you get sick and have to go to the hospital for 3 weeks. Oh, it's a late book. Well, what are you going to do? There's nothing. Life gets in the way. It's not putting out if you get sick, if Gene Colan gets the flu, right, and Roy Thomas and Stan Lee gets the flu on Tales of Suspense, right, and then Roy Thomas steps in for Stan Lee, and Jack Kirby steps in for Gene Colan and creates the best fight, superhero fight in comic book history. That doesn't happen. That comic book has to come out. The crowdfunding comic doesn't have to come. It eventually has to come out. But that's just an estimate. And both Kickstarter and Indiegogo and Fund My Comic will do that.
Okay, Mark. Let Nick talk. He's been sitting there quiet for a while.
No, I mean,
sorry, Nick.
No, it's fine. Everything you're saying is essentially summing up, the events that have been going on. If I was to try to offer something maybe a little bit like new or insight to some of the stuff, like the idea of crowdfunding really is a personal thing. Like you're taking a journey with the creator. That's how I see it.
Right.
I don't like, and the other thing is, I think there's a distinction to be made. And I wish Ethan would sort of like kind of lean into it a little bit harder, and make this distinction a little bit more clearer. And he did a really great job at one point in one of his streams, and I wish he would just kind of do it again. He held up his comic book, or I don't know if he held up his comic book, but he should. And then he held up the Salamandroid mug.
Yeah. That's
a product. This is art.
Right.
Okay. The distinction is necessary. And you have to ask yourself, like some of these YouTubers.
This is a product that's on sale now. PayPal at johnslong.yahoo.com. $40 each. Cost me $7 to make. But $10 goes to the post office. There you go.
There you go.
You see?
Just worked that right in. Seamless.
Right.
It was so smooth.
Seamless and
just
smooth.
Butter.
Like a used car salesman, right? I'm terrible at selling. I got to work on that.
No, it's all good, man. But yeah, like the whole thing here is that it very much is product and art. And you've got customers and you've got fans. And these are distinct things. We understand that every customer, or I should say that all fans are customers, but not all customers are fans. And so
that's true.
If you're not able to make these distinctions, you're going to have a real hard time, like putting your message out there, doing your marketing properly, getting some momentum, getting people to care, generating excitement and everything else. And if you do generate excitement, it's going to be about different things. It's going to be based off of, cult of personality more than it's going to be about the product itself or the art itself. If it's a comic. Right. And there was another very interesting point that was made that I feel, which again, once again, like, where's crowdfunding? Where does that exist in people's minds? Where does it exist in their hearts? And what is a pre-order, pre-sale, product? Where does that exist in people's minds? Where does that exist in people's hearts? And it's interesting to me that you can generate excitement, that Rippa was able to generate a tremendous amount of excitement, but as we're seeing, like, sales are dropping. And then, with EVS, he's able to create what I would think is a far more loyal fan base.
Yeah, he's
a
loyal fan base.
And he's doing that because he's listening to the fans and he's bringing them on this journey that is crowdfunding, that is making a comic. And there's bumps and bruises and everything else along the way, but it really is about the artist being an artist. It's not about the artist being a CEO of a huge company that employs all these people, brags about warehouses or whatever the other sort of flexing that goes along with it. Like, there are some people, no doubt about it, there are some people who find that alluring, interesting, again, mystique, whatever, like the Andrew Tates of the world.
I was just about to say that. Do you think anybody finds it's comic because they want that comic?
No, they bought it
$100 for that comic, and what is it? It's him fantasy of the Matrix.
Yeah, and it's a bad comic.
Right.
But everybody said it was a bad comic, but Andrew Tate didn't have a fit because it was a bad comic. He said, I made a lot of money in that comic. I'll do better next time.
And he hired a legit artist to, you know what I mean? He made a step to correct the problem, which is admirable in itself. And then I also get mad because it's not like I try to live my life. Is that person taking anything away from me? Like Ethan making $400,000 in a comic book. To me, I'm like, that is great. That shows you the sky's the limit. You know, when Eric July made $3 million on his comic book, I was like, wow, the limit.
Well, I was happy too.
Yeah,
I see it differently.
Floats all boats. So, and none of them
took
my pocket.
I see it differently.
I don't want to denigrate anybody's success. You know, if he makes money, he makes money.
Yeah, I see it a little bit differently. I see what you mean by the sky's the limit. And
Nick sees it properly. I see it from my Florida. You know,
no, I like Nick's hat. I gotta get one of those.
I just admire the way Nick thinks.
What I'm doing is I'm actually creating a little bit of conflict and a little bit of like, you know, on your stream so to keep it interesting. But otherwise we'd just be sitting here pontificating and just agreeing with one another all the time. But
that's what I do.
I only invite people if they agree with me.
Oh, see you, Nick.
Actually, I invited Heidi McDonald, and she politely declined.
Oh dear.
Well, she was polite about it.
She politely declined. That's and I.
Hey, that's fine.
It's to watch this in your mainstream. You know, you're not CG. I'm not playing drama gotcha. If you actually want to come on and have a legitimate, I would love to have Heather Ontos on. And you know, I'm not going to insult her and come up, you know, unless she insults me. But even then, I wouldn't insult her. I would love to have a good faith discussion about why we disagree and what's going on. I think that would be fascinating. Yeah. You know, so anybody on the other side, I'm your boy. I'll talk to me. You know, I will not insult you. I will not denigrate you. You know, the drama will occur because of the disagreements, not because of me being Howard Stern and insulting you and whatever. But I'm sorry, Nick.
Was I saying something?
I don't know. Who's listening to you?
Just that. Yeah. Okay.
No, we're listening.
Me. Don't listen to me.
I'm teasing. I tease.
Yeah, no. The what I was going to say is the difference. You know, the sky's the limit, and yes, it is. But you know, we've already established a certain reality, and that is that how many people, like, if you were to take all that bought, you know, Ripa's book, how many people actually care about comics? How many people actually collect comics?
I agree. I think a lot of them just bought it because it's Ripper.
And this is the thing: is like, you know, is that the limit, or? And I would ask the same question of EVS and Davis and, you know, all these other guys. How many of the people that are buying those books are actually fans of comics proper? Okay,
that's a big problem, Nick.
What's the audience that you're fostering? That's the real question here. And the audience that Ripa is fostering is, you know, is kind of split. He has, you know, he talks about, like, For Canon's Sake is a kind of a long running kind of thing that he was doing for a while, where he was talking about comic books and so on. Okay, that's great pop culture stuff, perhaps. Then he's talking about his political stuff, so his anarcho-capitalism and all that stuff for those people who care about that kind of thing. And then he's got his, you know, middle of the road kind of economics and economic policies, and, you know, sort of, you know, channeling some Sorrell and that kind of thing. So, you know, there are these different sort of segments of his audience. I mean, we talked about before the idea of a subset of a subset of a subset. Well, he's got, like, even in his own audience, different subsets. And then there are those people that probably came along with him for the music as well. And I'm not knocking any of that. Those are real fans.
Yeah.
You know, but I put my marketing hat on.
They're fans of him, not necessarily fans of comics.
Or they're fans, or you know, if they're fans of him, or they're fans of his content. So the content, they might be very interested in anarcho-capitalism, and they found this guy, and so they've subbed to him, and they only care about that content. They don't care about the for canon's sake stuff, or and they don't care about like his economic policies or that sort of discussion. They're really concerned with what is this idea, anarcho-capitalism? Who is this person, Ayn Rand? What is this, and so on and so on. Like all the stuff that those various rabbit holes kind of go down. They're on a particular journey in their sort of life and in their sort of political awakening, as it were. And so they found Ripa as one of these touchstones for that particular kind of topic. And so he's just another person that they've subscribed to for them to kind of fill out this sort of gap in their understanding about the political world. And so when he goes and sells a comic, maybe they bought it, but they're not necessarily there for canon's sake, and they're not necessarily there for economic policy or the other things that Ripa might be talking about. Now he's talking about comic book, economics and so on, right? The economics of comics. So my question stands, if he's got like various audiences of which are already, sort of broken, and then there's his music. Remember, he comes from a whole history of music as well. Who are fans of him and following him? That who cares about that? So all these people, there's different people, and for the canon's sake, people might actually be his real comic fans. That might be where those fans exist. The other segments. Maybe they bought the first book, but then they drop off and don't care about the second or the third, right? And I think I talked about this before in our last stream, where remember when you trade on sentiment, when you trade on that, the moment that they buy because they like you, or the moment that they buy because you ask for support, the moment that transaction happens, they clean their wash their hands of it. They're finished. They've made their donation. They've made their contribution to the cause, and they feel no need to do it. The book arrives. They're like, oh yeah, right, and throw it off. Well, and they don't think about it again.
They like me because nobody likes me.
It's a huge problem in Comicsgate. So I was at Heroes Con and I met two guys, and they were traveling together, and they came and they were meeting all the creators there. And they were hanging out. And I'm like, well, which ones do you read? Or if the conversation always comes up about the books and how it always, we're comic fans.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't read any of the books, but I back them all. I get all the books. Why wouldn't you want to read them?
I read every
because it was all for the culture war. I want to be I believe in what you do. And I met two people who did this guy, and he was like, I don't know who he is in the chat. I'm sure he's there. I forgot. I know his real name, but I don't know like his chat name. And he just did it for the culture. He's not reading a book. He doesn't have the lore. I know when they're, like, oh, where was Neil Adams born? We all know that stuff. No. So this is a big problem. So when Ethan sits there and says, please read the book, or Graham, they all do it. Please read the book. Right. Post what you think. They want somebody to read it, whether you like it or not. So they read the book. It isn't. They don't want you. They want what you want. They want people to read the book.
You just made
because there's a lot of people like that.
When people were asking, what was your favorite part of ISOM? Was you think that was like, were people legitimately asking, or were they just trying to say like, you didn't even read the book? Because
they were trying to catch it, because what happened was nobody read ISOM. They all Dick Masterson got ISOM, Nina Infinity got ISOM. These are giant. I don't know who these people were before this. They're giant YouTubers. I don't even understand that as a job. I understand a stand-up comic becoming a YouTuber. That's different, But I don't understand these people that are just. So I didn't know Vito. I don't know any of these people. But they all ordered their friend's book, who's also a YouTuber. And then they were discussing it. And then somebody said, what was your favorite part? Really, like they weren't trying. It wasn't even a gotcha.
They were asking in earnest.
And Nina Infinity never read it, and she was embarrassed. And then she picked it up and tried to flip through it really quick. And that's how this whole thing started. And Masterson then sat and read the book and decided to take notes about it. And it wasn't even a bad criticism. It was just criticism, and Rip didn't like the criticism. And now we are where we are. But that's how that started. That's why that question started going around. That's all.
I hope somebody tells me.
I don't know what my favorite part was.
You know what I mean?
Sorry, what's that, John?
I said, I hope when my book comes out, somebody at Nerdist tells me what their favorite part of
Well,
the
you're
book
not going to have a 96-page
when
book
the big
either,
guy
John.
did this, or I like when the bad guy did this, because that's what I want to talk about. I
John,
like when Spider-Man swung in the building and punched the Green Goblin.
John, you're not going to have a 96-page book either. That's costing people $50, $35 plus shipping.
Eric's face.
It's a lot.
$35 for.
I read it. I think the best part was when Isom knocked into Yaira, because that was like just the most comic booky thing ever over the city.
So I guess I take people at face value too much, because when
the lettering was really good.
I was like, why are people getting mad when they ask what's your favorite part? Because that's like,
because they decided to get mad. I don't know. I think the lettering was really good.
Like,
and I didn't mind the coloring too much, although it wasn't Gabe's best job.
Was the laser fights? You know what I mean? Everybody. That's such a fandom question. What was your favorite part?
It was just for such a long comic book. Not a lot happened, and there was a lot of motivation for Isom Avery to do what he did, and he seemed to get in fights for no reason. And it's about disrespect, and some of what Ethan said was right. More about the story. The art's the art. I mean, I wasn't crazy for the art. They could have used a little Jack Kirby and John Buscema in that art. But I think that about a lot of comics. I thought that about Glorious Rex. So, I thought that story, we always talk about, Isom. Glorious didn't go up. It wasn't as good as Alien Arrow. Wasn't as good as Wraith of God. It wasn't as good as Wrecked Planet. And he's like, he makes gangbusters out of that book.
Anything to Wraith of God. That book was stellar. You know what I mean?
That was probably, and it wasn't as good as Quarterrath. Quarterrath is really good. Wraith of God might have been the best. One of the better comics I've read. Yeah.
I love all of Graham Nolan's monster comics. The Shanu actually gave me claustrophobia while reading.
I never got the Shanu.
I really, really dug it. So, like, saying it wasn't as good as Wraith of God is kind of like saying, yeah, this guy wrote a novel, but it wasn't as good as I don't know. I'm trying to think of something.
Well, I didn't get the Shanu. I was I was just getting into it when he was ending that campaign. I wasn't sure I was going to back anybody.
I'm looking over there because I got all the stickers hanging up. Whatever.
I'd like to get to Shanu, but get it off his website.
I get it. Now, let me ask: do you read every one of your comics?
No, I've got a ton of comics that I have to get to, but it's just because I'm too busy. It's not because I don't want to.
Because I have 40 long boxes of comics that I haven't read yet, but that's my plan.
Yeah.
And one of my New Year's pledges is all of these crowdfunded comics. I put them on the top of the pile, and I'm going to read them right away. Like, if I didn't stream tonight, I was going to read, Silverline comics that I just got yesterday.
I just get the comics I've backed. I don't get any other comics anymore, and I don't back as much as many people. I pick and choose.
I bought way too many comics. That's just my problem.
But I do read them all. Like Bronze Star, I got that. Private American was good.
Yeah. I haven't been backing as many as I'd like. But I've been, because I'm in Canada, for me, my strategy is a little different. I'm just waiting for people to get like 2 or 3 books and then get a big order and have them ship that big order out so that I've got like...
Yeah, it doesn't, with the shipping, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's not as bad as Australia, but it's still, it hurts when it's $25 for the book and then another like 15, 25, 20.
I think a surprise mystery box and you pledge, and he just fills it with all of those horrible animals that they only have in Australia that could kill you, like freaking jumping spiders and centipedes, and you just open it up and you want drama?
I honestly wish that the books were at least $5 to $10 cheaper. I mean, it's hard to back them. Everybody has the same prices too. No matter what size book it is, there's nothing really less, except for like Perfect 10 and all that. He's less, but I'm late on that. For me to get all the books, it's expensive.
This glass that I'm making, it's dirty because I just drank a beer out of it. But people are telling me I'm charging too little for it. I'm charging $20, and people are like, that's too little. I'm like, well, you didn't buy it. You telling me it's too cheap, and you didn't buy it. I don't want to gouge anybody. I want to make a couple of bucks. Let's be realistic. Things cost what they cost, and shipping costs whatever. But I do agree that there's the price for a lot of these comics is too much, especially when it's a cliffhanger. So that's why I want to have one and dones. It's a full story. And then who did I have on my channel the other day? They said like it's a show. You're watching a show, and then every couple of months you buy a $35 comic. That's like the ticket to support the show. And I didn't want to contradict him, but I thought that was pretty funny.
To make you feel better, you can feel like you're in the Renaissance, and you're a patron of the arts, and you're paying Da Vinci. That's kind of what we are at this point. We're not really comic buyers. Like we're going to the comic shop every week. You're a patron.
How much is Batman? Batman's what, $7 now, right? So if I charge $7 for my comic, I don't really feel I'm gouging anybody. This the scales. I'm not going to print 100,000 copies of it.
That's true, but that's why it's
I do find this as an interesting conversation, though. Like what you just said, John. The ticket for the show and stuff. This it bothers me too. I
don't want people to feel obligated to buy my comic book. You know what I mean? If you watch my show, great, thank you so much. Why talk about comic books if nobody's participating? But I don't want anybody to feel obligated. Like,
well, and this goes to once again. This goes to once again proper messaging, framing things in people's minds properly, sort of like what your purpose is. Did you communicate that intention? And so all that's to say is this: there are other ways to support the channel. Like if that's really the only thing that you care about, right? Like the individual, like the audience, right? They're an audience, they're not a reader, right? Then what you do is you can support through super chat, just as you showed. You can support through becoming a member. You can support through Patreon if you've set up a Patreon, or a Subscribe Star if you're into Subscribe Star. There are a bunch of different ways of supporting the channel. And if you're not a good communicator and you've got your YouTube channel rolling and you're just basically like throwing out, and like the discussion is all over the place, and you can't really map the discussion, and you can't really map your wares, that is to say your merch and everything else. That is to say, when I say map, I mean like you can't put them in people's minds in the proper categories that they understand, that they can then self-categorize. They can self-slot. Right. So I'm slotted in here. I know I'm a comic book fan. So when you open your show or close your show, you have your stinger or whatever else. It's like, hey, do you love the channel? Support the channel by hitting that like button. And if you really want to, if you really are a supporter of the channel and you just love coming in and you love checking out what's going on in this channel, then I want you to become a member. Go ahead, pull the trigger on that, and you'll be supporting the show, and that keeps the lights on for the show. But if you're a comic fan, what you need to do is you need to sign up right now. I've got my sign up going on. I've got all sorts of like sneak peeks and all sorts of other things that will excite you and everything else. If you're the comic fan, if you love the show, that's great. But if you're a comic fan, I really want to talk to you. Hop on that list. You need to be on that list. What am I doing? I am speaking directly to them. I'm making them so that they can decide what they are. I'm just a fan of the show. I'm not really big into comics, or I'm really big into comics and I'm a fan of the show, and they can decide like what level that they want to support at, because you've set that all up. All that stuff is already running in the background. It's all automated.
I agree with you 100%. I even when Crump super chatted $2, I get embarrassed. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like I don't like asking people for money. My father told me, out of all 7 kids, he goes, "You're the only one who never asked me for a dime." Like if I'm going to work and there's no gas in the car, I'm not going to ask my wife, "Honey, can I have $5 for gas?" I hate that. I got that old school New Yorker Italian thing. You got to be a self-sufficient man, like that guy on Instagram. Be a man. Don't ask anybody for money. I would in the street. Be a man.
I would say this.
That guy's great.
Yeah.
I would say this. I would say I understand
Right.
the trauma that you're put through. You need to get over that trauma, A, and B, when you say that, what you're really saying to everybody who's listening is that you don't believe in your product and you don't believe in your channel and you don't believe that you have anything of value to offer.
Oh, harsh school talk over here. Yeah.
All right.
See, that's why
I know
like-
you can take it. I know you can take it.
Yeah.
But that you don't realize it,
Hold
but
on.
you're subconsciously saying that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was joking that I was turning you off. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Get
No,
out of here.
I agree with you, and you're 100% right.
You
100%.
gotta just say, you know what? I've decided to step into this arena. I have to put forward something of value. If I don't do that, and we're seeing people who are doing who are failing at doing that, like they're making massive, grandiose promises. Right? There's no need to name names; it doesn't matter.
Right.
But we see this all the time, and all of a sudden the book lands, in your mailbox. You open it up, you crack it open, and read it, and it's a letdown because the promise has been so huge. Right? No.
Right.
Figure out what you're offering. Do whatever it is you intend to do. Do it well.
All right,
Deliver
everybody,
on
start
that.
super chatting. Nick tells me start super chatting. Everybody,
Yeah,
like and subscribe.
Well, you know what? If you don't like, I think Nick said something interesting. If you don't really like to ask, then set up something at the end,
There you
like
go.
a stinger. Pop XP. Niall doesn't really ask you to like and subscribe. He does in the chat, but at the end of every show, if you like this channel, please like and hit the subscribe button. He has a little saying. He doesn't do it all the time.
Yeah.
On right away, just when the show ends. And when Chuck Dixon was wondering, ask Chuck Dixon why his subscribers were stagnant, he realized he never asked anybody to subscribe and hit the like button. And then somebody like Nick told him to, and all of a sudden, people said, "Oh, I'm going to subscribe. Oh, I can hit the subscribe." I mean, I automatically do it to a lot of channels, just the way I am. But people have to be reminded.
Yeah, you have to prompt them, right? And you have to give them a reason to. So don't just prompt them. Say, subscribe to the channel. It helps in this way or that way or whatever. Right? If you support the channel in this way or that way, it's going to help.
My knees hurt. I don't want to do construction anymore. How's that?
Yeah, exactly. Hey,
well, you don't. I think you don't have to start by saying, "Hey, send me money, send me."
I know. I'm being
just ask them to subscribe, and once you get used to that, you can expand it out further later as you get used to asking people to do this. I mean, you are providing a service, and then they're enjoying the show.
On New Year's Eve, I had 988 subscribers, and I said, "Hey, can I get help going?" And Comics Perch, I didn't even think Comics Perch knew I existed. This is one of the bigger guys in the comic. He retweeted. I got like 150.
Yeah, Perch is pretty big.
I was like, "Oh my god," Yeah. So yeah, you're absolutely right, Nick. You're absolutely right about it. I just got to get over my own hangups. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to stand and sell hot dogs, as Zach put it, right?
That's what they say. Yeah.
And you have to be convinced that the hot dogs you're selling actually taste good, and to use a purchism isn't Arby's.
I know people who like Arby's though. So
I like Arby's. I just didn't like the brisket.
I'm not a big fan, but
I saw the commercial for the brisket burger. My mouth started watering. I drove down there and I threw out for the first time in my life. I threw out that burger.
Oh my god! All right, so I'm going to tell. I had COVID and I was in a coma for 16 days.
Why is it?
I had COVID with pneumonia, and the key is it was with pneumonia and I have asthma. So it's all sorts of things. Like I probably should have been holed up in a hole. So when I woke up, they set up TV of MICU in Charlotte. They set up the TV. And all I did was watch like Hardee's commercials, and I wasn't eating anything, right?
Yeah.
It was all intravenous at first, and then the food I couldn't taste the food for a while, and it was really bad. And I'd be like, all I want was that Hardee's double burger they kept showing the commercial.
You do.
So when you said that about Arby's, that reminds me. Like, oh my God, I want that burger.
You do remember I was frying sausages only 2 hours ago. Like,
and now
you're talking about food. I think this is a torture session. This is what's happening.
This is a struggle session, Nick.
Yeah, it really falls.
You got to sign that pledge that you won't rape
Struggle
anybody.
session. Really? My goodness. Yeah.
Well, you know what? We've been talking almost 3 hours. So anybody want to wrap anything?
Oh,
up?
I didn't mean to sign us off. I was making
no. But now I'm going to Arby's.
No, jeez.
You got to eat your sausages, Nick.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
There was something there was something you said before, and I was quiet because other people were talking. And I wanted to. Now I can't remember. I can't remember what I was going to say. Oh well, I'll remember it. Oh yeah. Did you see my comic book team up with RJ on Wednesday? We had Project Neosis on. Did you see that kid? That kid was like 24 years old, and he's making thousands of dollars hustling comics at conventions, and he completely opposite. He didn't know that YouTube was a thing. He made his comic. He went down to conventions. He was hustling. Because we ended up talking after the show. He says he has sell it. He's like, yeah, you got to sell. You got to sell. And I was saying the same thing that he's like, you got to get over that. You got to sell. And he's like a 24-year-old kid.
Yeah.
You could barely grow facial hair, telling me, you got to get over that, buddy. You got to sell your comic. You got to sell.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I saw that one. I should probably tune in. You're not talking
about
Phenomenova. You're talking about somebody else.
No, that was Vaughn Coleman. Another one I was impressed, but they're actually friends with because they both go to conventions.
Gotcha. Okay,
I was so glad that I met both of them because here we are, like under 30s are making their own comics, and and they know good comics. I was like, I was writing off the younger kids as if they only read manga, And I don't want to say anything bad about manga because manga is great. I
have a feeling that at some point there's going to be a tipping point. And, it's going to start with a couple of 30-year-old kids, kids, they're adults, then it's going to sort of spread a little bit further and people are going to be like, what's this? What's this? What's this? I only know manga. I only know, whatever. And suddenly that tipping point is going to hit. And then there's going to be this resurgence in this interest again. I mean, there's already an interest in back issues, but I would argue that most of that is probably nostalgia buyers who are trying to complete runs and that kind of thing, right?
That's definitely me.
They're building their collections, yeah.
Look at this Jonathan Hickman Ultimate Spider-Man comic book. It's a legitimate hit, to the point where there's price gouging on eBay for it.
Mm-hmm.
I think Marvel, with the failure of the movies, I think they, the powers that be maybe shining in a light. They got DG Chichester doing Daredevil Black. They just hired they hired J.M. DiMatteis to write us. Is this like the amoebas sending out the pseudopods and testing and now the rest of that glop is gonna I hope so. Because I still love those characters. Look, Mark has got a Spider-Man shirt on. I still got boxes of Iron Man I got to read. I like these guys. I don't want them to go away.
No.
No, I don't want them to go. And I do believe the strength of Marvel and DC. Just look at the independence craze of the 90s.
Well, the whole other discussion is that they're like, I agree. In terms of what was established and who established them, that is to say, the talent that came before. The issue that I find now, and I'm assuming it has something to do with education, it has something to do with culture, it's probably a multivariant problem, but the issue is that there is, I don't even know how to properly word it. I'll simplify it and say that there is a lack of understanding when it comes to craft. And so I hate to say this, but Hickman and a few others, they understand craft to a certain level. There are so many kids now, like 30, 40 and younger, that
Well,
There's
yeah,
something missing. There's an awareness.
Mhm.
There's a lack of awareness of storytelling, of character, like personal life experience.
like they don't
Of
even know what they don't even know.
they don't know what they don't know, and so when they sit down to write their story, it's all emulation. It's all just what they've seen before. It's all copycat. It's all like personal interest. It's all like these sort of things that are being put in there, and they're forgetting that the very first thing that they have to think about is the reader. That's your whole goal. Before, when Crom was on, we were talking. I was talking about the unified effect. That whole idea is built around the reader, and so there's this fundamental misunderstanding. I think about the old Jews in Hollywood. Okay, those writers that wrote things like Casablanca, like all these like incredible classic films, right? Those guys like Billy Wilder, right?
Mhm.
You look at these guys who wrote these films. I mean, they understood the craft. You would sit down and you could have a conversation with them, and you could say, I like the way the scene is working, but have you thought about approaching it from the obverse? Have you thought about approaching it from the converse? And they would only have to ask that question, and each one of them would understand exactly. If you don't understand what I'm asking,
Yeah.
already there's a problem.
Yeah,
right.
I'm an electrician, and if the motor's spinning the wrong way, I said we have to invert the wires. That guy knows exactly what I'm talking about, and he goes and but you listen to this is like that sounds like you're talking about next generation with an inverse tachyon pulse.
Really, yeah, totally. Yeah. And what we're talking about is rhetorical technique. We're talking about logic,
Right.
and we're talking about craft, and these ideas are in some way sort of metaphysical in nature, but there is a truth to them. There is an underlying sort of principle that drives this entire freaking engine. And you're supposed to be at the helm of it, and you have no idea. Like, you walk in there and it's basically you're on the Enterprise, and you have no idea what any of these switches do. That's what's going on with this generation. It seems to me is that very few of them have any. Like, there was a time when even a not so good writer would at least write something that was passable. Now, the stuff that's getting published, I don't like.
You
and
look
the
at
amount.
Twitter. You look at Twitter and you hear all like these. I don't want to name names, but they're like, my imposter syndrome was kicking in today, and I'm like, do you think Jack Kirby had imposter syndrome? Do you think Stanley had imposter syndrome? Do you think John Romita Jr. had imposter syndrome, or John Romita? No, these guys. That they would be like, what are you talking about? We got work to do.
This coming from a guy who has problems asking for money.
But I don't have imposter syndrome. I think I'm a good writer. I just don't want, I don't want to ask.
You just don't want money.
Jack Kirby fought in the Battle of the Bulge.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, imposter syndrome to me just means you deep down, you're not good at what you do.
Perhaps. I mean, there is a certain nervous energy, like a performance, anxiety. I think that is a real thing.
Right.
I mean, I get it every time
nervous when my friends come over to play D&D. I get nervous.
There you go. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I do think there's one thing I'm good at is running a D&D game. I've been doing it for 40 years.
But like there is a fundamental problem with this generation coming up, unfortunately, and I don't I sound like old man Axe or something like that, but the people need to really just reach into the past, and they need to study like all of Billy Wilder's films. Like, just even start there. If you're listening, if you're a young writer and you're like really thinking, I want to master my craft, I want to tell good stories, I want my readers to love the book so much that they want the second book, and that they're just clawing for the second book. They're banging at the door for that second book. If that's the kind of writer you want to be, you need to be looking back, because right now the stuff that's being produced, even like on Netflix and everything else, it's all of it's falling apart, and it all has to do with this lack of understanding of the different worldviews that characters might hold, how those worldviews influence decisions, what those decisions are in terms of cause and effect, how what sort of themes that you're trying to build to, that you actually have something to say. There's all this stuff that, like, these high level sort of like conversations you have to have before you can even write your first word.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you don't understand this stuff at a fundamental level, if you don't understand the mechanics of this, forget it. You're done. And so this is what's happening is when you don't understand it, there's only one thing that's left for you, and that's to emulate. And that's what AI is doing. And so now, why do you need these writers? Because AI can do just as good a job, because all it's doing is emulating. Like, there's a misnomer with AI. They talk about AI generates. AI doesn't generate, it derivates. It's a derivative thing. And that's what all these other writers, these current writers, I shouldn't say all, that's unfair.
Yeah.
A vast majority of them, that's what they're doing. They're producing derivative works. And why? Well, that's all they're capable of doing, because they lack the capacity to go that level deeper, to understand that there are these things that are principles that govern our reality, that govern truth, that govern all these things. If some of them won't even accept the fact that that is the case, right? They're like, they'll say something, asinine, like there's no such thing as truth. And you follow up with, oh yeah, is that true? So they don't even understand the irony of their own words, their own like sort of like their own rebellion against truth, right? Yeah. So anyway, I'm just ranting at this point, but there is a fundamental misunderstanding and a lack of understanding, a lack of capacity, and all of which leads to this emulation.
A lot of them, not only do they not care about it, they actively have disdain for the past of comics, which is absolutely insane as far as I'm concerned. I wanted to ask you a question. I remembered something else we were talking about. Then how the nature of conversations we did when we were talking about they just buy the comics to fight the culture war. I think Marcus brought this up. And I said I have no problems cutting things out. Like I don't buy anything to fight the culture war. I feel it's I'll buy something because I like it. Mm-hmm. And what I like tends to be, in my opinion, better quality stuff. And I'm just hoping, like, don't buy stuff just to fight the culture war, because then you're going to be supporting. And I said I hate this word grifter, but that's when you're going to be supporting grifters. Like, oh, I'm just buying because this guy has politics. But I'm buying Jim Nolan stuff, despite the fact that we have the same politics, because he writes and draws absolute great comics. Mm-hmm. Aaron Lopresti, I'm sure me and him disagree about a few things, but his comics are excellent. And if I support those, and we get and people who love comics, then we'll right this ship. And if the culture war is defeated, that's a byproduct of excellent comics.
The way of winning the culture war is by not playing the culture war. Yeah. The way to win the culture war is to generate culture. That's it. You don't have to sit there and shit on everybody else's stuff. You don't have to, as we talked about in your last, the cheap heat.
You just did that to me. The way to win the culture war is to create culture.
But that's exactly right.
I'll put that on
like the Daily Wire creates their own movies, or they create their own razors, they create their own chocolate, because the right has always been bad at creating culture. The left has always created culture. We all know that. And this is the first time that the right's trying to create culture.
No.
I mean,
the 50s,
There's a this. So how do I get into this? Like the politics part of it is relevant, but it's relevant only in a very superficial level. Mm-hmm. There's a much deeper sort of like aspect of this. And especially today, because the right is no longer right and the left is no longer left. Like everything is sort of kind of upside down and sideways.
That's true.
So it's very, very difficult to even like use these terms anymore with any real like purchase. So what you have to do instead is you have to actually go back to the wood on a lot of this stuff and ask yourself, going back to the fundamentals, going back to the principles. And the idea of like, if you want to create culture, you have to tap into that thing that is universal to everybody, even for the people that pretend to reject it, even the ones that say that there is no such thing as truth, for the people that say that there is no such thing as beauty, that the standard is that there is no standard, like all these sort of oxymorons, all these sort of like, really silly
tautology. Is that the word?
Yeah. Tautology. Like these sort of things is where you have to go in order for you to generate. because you have to be tapping into the universal powers, of truth and so on, in order for you to actually generate anything. Because that's where the wellspring of actual, like, that's how Star Wars was that's what George Lucas was tapping into when he wrote Star Wars, whether he realizes it or not, right? So so the politics part, although it plays a part, isn't really like that the left can write stories and the right can't, or that the left creates culture and that the right can't. That's not necessarily the case. If you can be, in Hollywood, when it was a little less, if you want to refer to it as leftist, back in the day, I mean, it was always left, obviously, but there were more variety of thought and of politics, let's say, back in the day. When it was the silver screen and you had like old Hollywood moguls making movies and getting behind, financing these things. And you had like real movie events where they were like huge celebrations of like a movie coming out and so on. It's a big deal. Way back in that day, you had writers that were coming into the scene from the stage, from novels, from like all sorts of different places. These were experts in their craft, and these people were educated. A lot of them were classically educated. When they learned, they didn't just learn, the
but that was
subjects.
back before they decolonized education. So that they were
Fair
good.
enough. And they had, but they learned things like Latin. They understood the language that the symbol actually, reached into the into reality and actually joined, like, the symbol, the word, was actually a reflection of reality, and so on. They understood these sort of fundamental principles, these sort of metaphysical truths, and so on, and they would write these stories and tap into that. I know I'm repeating myself, I apologize, but the point is that in order for us to generate culture, we have to tap into these forces, these truths, the true, the good, the beautiful, and we have to understand that to fight the culture war is not to fight the culture war, but is to create culture. And this is the only way to do it. This is the only way to do it.
The same thing, but
Right.
in a different way.
I think you're right.
He said, he goes, you want CG to prosper? You want us? He goes, we just got to get good stories. We just got to get and everything, and he's right, because,
and ask yourself, what's a good story? What's a good anything? Right? This is a metaphysical question. Good. Well, I mean, the obvious thing is good is not bad. Okay, fine. But good means that it has to adhere, that it has to cohere, that it has to be something that is reflection of something true, right? And this goes back to what I'm saying, is that there is an education system that our youth, unfortunately, has been victim of. And this idea of getting to these fundamental principles and truths and so on, were never taught. It was all about memorization and all these other tomfoolery that's going, like the new math. I don't know if you've seen any of that nonsense.
Yeah, I teach that stuff.
It's in okay. Oh yeah, you were a teacher.
Yeah.
Jeez, you know a lot more about this, and that's probably why you got out of it, I think, as well.
I left around 2004. So could you imagine if I would have been in jail for beating up? Yeah, I probably would have. I told you I was driving to work in the snowstorm, and I was like, if I just jerk this wheel, I'll spin out and I'll be in traction for the rest of the. And I'm like, this is what I'm thinking about. It's time to switch careers. It was awful.
Insane.
I remember our very first teachers conference. I was all excited. Oh, it's a teachers conference. All the kids are going to be gone, and I thought we were going to discuss rubrics and educational. I wore my tie and I had my. Yeah, it was like a Jerry Springer episode. This guy's yelled, "You took my books. That's my classroom over there. And I wanted that classroom by the window. And you promised that. And then you took that kid because those kids are pieces of shit." Like, this was the teachers are talking about the students. I was like, oh my God.
Well,
that's what you teach about you kids when they're at the teachers' conference.
It isn't every school. You're right. There are.
That's the thing I always thought, because I didn't run into that in my school system in New York or in in North Carolina.
We're a little
Charlotte.
we're a little older, and I grew up in a more of a rural area, so like all the news stuff was being tested and foisted upon like the city centers, and then
Right.
it would eventually get out into the sticks and such where I lived. So at least I had somewhat of an education. I still think it was
Well,
infected with a lot of nonsense.
I went to Catholic
But-
school. I could still give you a lecture on the French Revolution. Right
well,
now.
my kids,
All right,
my
let's
kids
go.
did all right. They ended up,
It was the
you
worst.
know, you being so far good members of society.
Mhm.
One's going to work for Tesla down in Austin, so you're doing all right.
I remember arguing with my other teachers, and I said, what we're doing is a crime. I said, we're giving these kids conclusions instead of teaching them how to draw their own conclusion.
How to think.
I might as well have turned into an alien with like snakes on my arm.
Yeah.
They all looked at me like I was crazy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, and what they're teaching the kids is to rebel against the true, the good, the beautiful, to rebel against rules or limits. Not that rules or limits are the necessary components for anything creative. No. Their idea of being creative is that there are no rules, that there are no limits. These are all destructive frames of thinking, ways of thinking. I
was a punk rocker. I collected punk rock records. I had a mohawk at one point. Again, if the Dungeoneer stuff it scares you.
It's nothing. But you're in New York City. The Dungeoneer stuff is light for New York City.
Yeah, that was.
I live 20 minutes away.
That's cute. But anyway, I started teaching preschool when I was still in college, and that's when I realized, F society, no rules, anarchy. Once I started teaching little kids, I realized, wow, we thrive under structure. And then I learned that the Ramones even said, like what Zach always says, like, we want to rebel against society, but we need a society to rebel against. These kids, like I went in my first couple of weeks working with preschool kids. It was like anarchy. We do what we want. These kids were like monsters, and now, and then I had to work hard, get it down. We had a routine, and these kids were excellent. Even the parents were like, wow, these kids come home from school and like, they're focused, they were little, I was creating little wild animals, we rules, and I say this to one of my friends, he's like, no, my friend, my baby goes to bed whenever they want to, and I've
not in my house. It didn't work that way.
This kid lives outside of the country. I've never met a 7-year-old that I've hated before. This created a little monster.
Yeah. Well, and
this thing, I'm not talking about you. Your kids.
And to get back to sort of the point, is that it's one thing to not have structure, and then it's a whole other thing to start filling people's heads with equity and all these other you
want to shut that down?
Philosophically bankrupt.
Ask them what equity means. Whenever anybody starts talking about equity, I go, "What does equity mean?"
Yeah,
I've seen you do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they never have an answer.
They don't know what they're talking about.
I like that post.
Yeah. Nothing like it's, all you have to do is ask them to explain their position and it all falls apart. They don't understand, how any of the conclusions that they have been provided were arrived at.
Right.
And not only do they not understand how it was arrived at, but they don't even understand the methodology to arrive at any conclusion.
Right.
Because all of their conclusions are provided to them. This is a problem.
Tax the wealthy.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what is wealth? Well, then they start talking about how much money they make. That's not wealth. You don't even know what wealth is.
Wealth is, yeah.
Exactly. Like I have a house now. My house is worth X amount of money. Should I just be taxed extra because that's part of my wealth? Let's put it in. I have
that's right.
I have $1 million comic book collection. Okay, so should I?
We should don't tell it too loud.
I'm just making the math. My comic book collection is worthless. But for you IRS agents in the audience, so should I be taxed every year at 10% of that? I have to pay what?
They would like to.
You know what I mean?
They would like to tax your comic collection every year.
You know what I mean? People, and then everybody goes, no. I said, well, that's what you're saying, tax the wealthy.
Yeah.
Well, You're talking about, well, what's his, and then they always say, what's that stockbroker's name? I can't even think of his name. That Will Buffett. Buffett doesn't pay any income tax. You know,
Right.
well, he doesn't have an income. Who pays that guy a paycheck?
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
he has capital. He pays taxes. You know, if you want to
Yeah, well, you
learn
know,
language,
and
a certain amount of challenge to authority can be
it's
good.
a presidential election. You're going to hear President Biden talk about how the wealthy have to pay. Act like the wealthy never pays any taxes, and his
yeah,
son never paid any taxes, and he's never paid any taxes, and it's all out there, and nobody, and at least half the country doesn't care.
but I would say, like, you know, with the education part of it, the only reason why I bring it up at all is because we are talking about comics, we're talking about writing comics, and we're talking about the dearth of writers, or like the kind of stuff that's being produced and called a script, called a comic script.
I was told to stop
Called-
teaching kids grammar.
It goes for the art of comics too.
Well,
though.
I mean, grammar is one of the, you know, elements of the trivium, and the trivium is the classical way of teaching, right? So you've got logic. Pardon?
Principal was told me to stop wasting time teaching grammar.
Ridiculous. Grammar is the fundamental building block by which you can build. You need grammar before you even move into logic, and there's no way that you can have logic without grammar, obviously. And so for anybody to actually say anything of any value, that is to say rhetoric, and I don't mean rhetoric in terms of the way the politicians use it, I mean true rhetoric in terms of the idea of persuading somebody to, you know, a particular point that you're trying to make or whatever. You need to use grammar and logic in order to have rhetoric. That's the trivium. And every single subject has, I shouldn't get into this, but every single subject has its own, every single subject has its own grammar, logic, and rhetoric. You think about Lego blocks. A Lego block, you have like the 2-1, you've got the one piece, you've got like the long piece. Well, that's the grammar, the building blocks. The logic is how they fit together. The rhetoric is the bridge you built, the building you built, the car you built. Every single subject, if you are taught properly the trivium, the classical way of learning, if you're taught the trivium and you understand this, then every single subject opens up to you. That is to say, if you want to learn music, you understand the first thing you need to do is learn the grammar. The second thing you need to do is figure out the logic. And then the third thing you do is from that point, you can start creating rhetoric in the form of music, rhetoric in the form of an electrician, rhetoric in the form of thermodynamics,
Right.
and so on. But in order for you to function in any of these particular disciplines, you have to understand that each discipline has its own grammar and has its own logic. Nobody's taught that. I shouldn't say nobody. Very few are taught that. Private schools and so on, they still teach in classical way.
I'll tell one last story, then you guys get one more chance to talk, and we'll get going. He's got sausages he's got to eat. But what I was teaching a third grade class, and the visitors from Columbia University, the Teachers College, were coming to the school, and the principal did everything they can to keep these women away from my classroom, and they ended up coming in. First thing they noticed was that it was rows. I had, 6 rows with 6 kids in a row, and that's a big no-no. It's cooperative units is the way we do it. So they're looking, and then they look, and one of them goes, "Is this a 5th grade class?" And the principal goes, "No, this is a 3rd grade class." She goes, "Look at this writing. The math is math. You know what I mean? But I had one wall with all writing, one wall with all math, my blackboard, and so one of the visitors goes to one of the kids. "I'm so glad she picked that kid." She goes, "Why are you in rows? Why aren't you in cooperative units?" And she looks at me, and I said, "Go ahead, answer the lady." And she goes, "Well, Arthur stabs me with the pencil all the time, and he keeps kicking my feet, and and." She goes, I have my own space, and this is my area, and I could do what I want here, and I could put my pencil over here, and I thought that was such a great answer. Would you accept that at you, Marcus? You sit next to you, the guy in the truck next to you is touching your elbow and grabbing your arm. You know what I mean? Adults don't work like this. Why do we expect kids to work like this? And then she goes, "Is this 5th grade?" And she takes a picture of it. And then she goes, "Well, what do you do to the kids? How do they write like this? How do they do math like this?" And they're all behaving. And I said I take all of that stuff from the Columbia University Teachers College. I take it all and I throw. I told you the story already.
No.
And I throw it right in the garbage. And I teach like the nuns used to teach me back when I was in grammar school. And she said, "You can't do that." I said, "You just asked me if this was a 5th grade class. What do you mean I can't do it? Like I can't do it? Like it's illegal, or what?" I said, "Because what's the goal here? To educate these kids, or to use your curriculum?" You know, they were like, it was almost like robots. Like I you remember Captain Kirk was talking to Nomad.
You're lucky they didn't take you away and throw you in jail.
Well, this was 2003. I bet you if this was now, I probably would have been on the news.
Well, no, in Canada you would have been in jail. I'll ask Nick about that, but that's almost a definite.
But
really, I'm headed there right now.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
if you want to learn
yeah.
about like how, especially the United States, was co-opted about the education and everything else. John Taylor Gatto has a series of books that he was an educator in New York, and he came up against a lot of the stuff that you're talking about, and he had some pretty unorthodox ways of teaching that were very successful, and he has a lot to reveal and say about like the education system and who the decisions makers were, how it was co-opted, how this curriculum, like new math and all this other stuff that's been put in there, how it got in there, why it's in there, and everything else. He's like, I think he's got like 5 or 6 books just on education alone.
The new math, I can't. I was supposed to be teaching this stuff, know, and I was teaching 3rd graders at the time. I was like, all right, let's do our times tables. There's no way to learn math unless you do your times tables. That's it. So, we 5, 10, 15, 20, and we would do little chants and stuff. And the kids, my class, my first year teaching, we got the highest state citywide test scores in our school, and the teacher was like, the principal was like, oh, what did you do? We chanted math scores. We taught like the nuns, So Marcus, we all had something to say. You want to say anything?
No, I'm running out of steam here.
Yeah, I know. That's why I've been up.
I didn't mean to talk too much before.
Sissies.
It's okay.
Yeah, right.
We all talk. Yeah.
I don't know. I was up at 6.
Considering my guest didn't show up. Crom was here tonight. For those of you who missed Crom, thank you for showing up, Crom. Nick, thank you. Always a blast to talk. Marcus, I love talking. I'm glad we had kept it to 4 people. I don't do well in when it turns into the Brady.
No, that's tough too. That's tough for everybody.
Yeah,
you see that on the Kings.
A little red light.
The bigger it gets, the quiet everybody gets.
You kind of need a moderator when you have more than 5. Like, okay, your time's up.
If you watch the bigger stream, if you notice the popular streams that like Ballers, there's only 3 or 4 people on that.
Right.
They'll bring a guest in and that's it. But when like the Kings get in and there's all these people and they come in and all Ethan starts to do is call on people. What do you think, Aaron? What do you think?
Well, he's being a moderator.
They're sitting there because they can't.
Yeah.
It is a problem with all these streams that are bigger streams like that.
Sure once, and he, I just waited my turn to talk because I was like, I don't want to.
Well, he had nice things to say about you within these drama streams. So
thank you. Oh, that's good.
He did say it. He goes, "Oh, I know John. Yeah, I know John's Logbox. We talk over to YouTube." He does say that, so I wouldn't worry about him. You're fine.
I'm not worried about anybody. I'm not worried about any. I first off, I like everybody. I wish there wasn't fighting. I wish it was more comic books.
You're allowed to. I think you're allowed to like if you like Eric and you like.
I do.
Well, I don't think Eric wants you to like Ethan, but I think Ethan would be okay for you to like Eric.
I think that too, and I think that too. And I also think doesn't matter what Ethan would never. I think this would be something that Ethan would never do. He would never tell anybody don't buy anybody else's book. You know what I mean? Like,
no, I don't think so.
He even says go buy ESOM 3. That probably is going to be the.
He even says buy Smiller's book. So there you go.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever. I'm trying to be political with my words, or not political, but
next we'll have to talk about the history of comics from 1908.
I would love it. I had Randy Zimmerman on, and that guy is.
Oh, I remember that. I saw the last year. That was
about comics. It was such a blast. I was on.
That was fun.
Swag Master, a young kid, I was on his channel, and what did we talk about? Who would win in fights, Spider-Man or Batman or thing? I loved it. It was a lot of fun. I love that stuff. That's what I want to talk. And I love diplomatic. That's the word. Thank you. Diplomatic, not political. Political. I'm getting sleepy, everybody. I'm an old man. I need my rest. And poor Nick is mouth watering, waiting for sausages.
Yeah.
Probably burnt to the pan by now.
Totally.
All right. And I'll talk for another
Good
20
night.
minutes. As my wife says, John, you got to know when to stop, and she's absolutely right. So thanks a lot.
Yeah,
Anybody
mine
want to
too.
say anything? Anybody? Thanks a lot. Nick has a campaign right now. He's the artist for Crom the Destroyer over at RJ.
Yeah.
I'll put the link in the description. Marcus is trying out for my book. I want to see some. I'm gonna be a J. Jonah Jameson. Parker, I want some pictures.
Love it.
Yeah, and I can't imagine anybody's watching this wondering what I'm up to. I got Heroic Tales sooner rather than later. I don't want to give a definitive date yet, and then like Max said, give promises that you can't deliver. Sooner rather than later.
You see, everything I say, you seem to believe is directed directly at you. It's like
I take everything personal. No, you
Well, that's part of your charm, John.
I'm sorry.
Part of your charm.
Take
everything personal.
Yeah, I could take it. I'm a big boy, but I also think you got great insights, and I appreciate that. Like I said, I was panicking at one point. I thought I bit off more than I could chew, and I talked to Nick, and I was like, my imposter syndrome went away. How's that? I'll talk in a millennial term.
Well, that's just it about the imposter syndrome thing. They wear it on like a badge, right, and that's it's less about the imposter syndrome, and it's more about them talking about it endlessly.
It's more like I'm a victim in a way, and being a victim has currency.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you know what I mean.
On that, for sure.
To me, Marcus, you're my age. That is a weird way to think.
Really is.
If and this is going to be offensive, and please follow my logic. If I had a lame leg, I wouldn't be going around telling people I have a lame leg. I would still try to pick up the boxes at work. You know what I mean? Well, perfect example is my back hurts, but I don't walk around go, my back hurts to get out of work. I just lift up stuff and, go
Yeah,
home.
I know the feeling.
You know what I mean? That's what you do. Should I be walking around at work? My back hurts. Yeah, I'm a victim. My back hurts, but I'm still doing my job because of my back. That's not the way we think. That's like an old, I don't know, an old one. My dad.
If anything, I'd probably just make fun of myself.
Right. Yeah. If your back hurts at work, pick up that box anyway. Be a man.
Yeah.
But thanks a lot, everybody. Like and subscribe. If you like what you saw, hit that like button. Subscribe, and remember, super chats help keep the lights on. How's that, Nick? Was that good?
Perfect. Awesome. You pass.
Tell your friends to like and subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications.
There you go. Yeah, perfect.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
All right.
I enjoyed the hell out of talking to all of you guys. Thank you guys for being around. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Yep.
Oh, Marcus just